Hello, everybody. We are just waiting on a few more people. We'll give it another couple minutes before we actually start the session. Thank you guys for coming. Senators, we're changing the permission so that you guys can rename yourselves so that you can rename yourself based off your college and then senator last name so constituents know who you guys are, which I think will be helpful for them. So we will get started in a few minutes. So yeah, okay, I will be right back. All right, we are just checking to make sure that we have quorum, and then once we do, we'll get started with general opening up stuff, and then we'll move into the agenda. So I believe we have met quorum now. Am I correct in that, Jyoti? Perfect. Okay, so now that we have met quorum, we're going to make sure that we've got everyone as panelists who are senators. Sorry, we're new to the Zoom thing. We got a little bit of a taste of it last semester, but it's new now. So bear with me, you guys. I really appreciate your patience. Okay. I think we've got all of the senators in the right place. Perfect. All right, well, I don't have a gavel at my house, you know, a metaphorical little gavel bang for us. We are going to call this Senate session, which is the first Senate session of the school year, to order at 6:02 p.m. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Catherine Hostel. I'm the Senate President for this upcoming year, so I will be leading this meeting. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with the first roll call. Our wonderful Senate Clerk, Jyoti, if you could do the roll call if you're ready for that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to go ahead and take roll. So is Senator Decker here?
I'm here.
Okay. Senator Huerta?
Here.
Senator Caldwell?
Here.
Senator Sanchez Suarez?
Here.
Senator Tinti? Senator Tinti?
Tinty?
Yes, sorry. Also, if I mess up any names, please do let me know. Senator Onbar?
Present.
Okay, Senator Richard Robert Rethel. Senator Snyder. Senator Ibanez.
Here.
Senator Vakala,
Here.
Senator Howe,
Here.
Senator Hollingsworth,
Here.
Senator Ibarra,
Here.
Senator Pitts,
Here.
Senator Isais,
Isais. Here.
Senator Saidu,
Here.
Senator Scoville,
Here.
Senator Lopez,
Here.
Senator
GFTU froze.
I'll text her now. It's the nature of Zoom, isn't it? Let's see. Thank you for your patience, you guys. We appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, are you back?
Field, sorry,
Lovely.
Sorry, present.
and Senator Subbaraman.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, so that's our first roll call and we have quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting. For all the senators, if you do have access to a camera, please turn it on so that our audience members can see you. No worries if you don't have access to a camera. I understand that not everyone does, and that's totally okay. But if you do, please do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into the approval of the agenda. I know this is a little bit new for everyone here since this is our first official Senate meeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share so that the audience as well as the senators are able to see the agenda. We'll quickly do like a little just, scroll through it so y'all can see it because it's a little bit long. And then we'll do some motions to see if we want to approve it. So give me 1 second to screen share. Let's see. All right. Is everyone seeing what I'm seeing with the agenda in the Google Doc form? I'm seeing that. It's perfect. That's awesome. Okay. So this is our agenda. Pretty basic reports, new business with all of the bills that were sent in by senators, open forum, announcements, roll call, and a call to the audience at the beginning of the session just after we approve this. Is there a motion on the floor to either approve or amend the agenda? And if you have it, you can just, normally we'll have you raise your hands, but in this instance, you can just unmute yourselves if you have a motion.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Would anyone like to make any amendments before we move forward? Okay, I'm hearing none. So with that being said, the agenda is approved. So now that the agenda has been approved, we're just going to move through the line items. The first one is a call to the audience. We currently have this set at 10 minutes, although I know we have a fair amount of audience members here. I don't know if you guys are all here to speak, but if you are, what we're going to do is that the audience members have the ability to raise their hands. So I'm gonna have to stop screen sharing so I can view that. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing. But audience members, if you guys would like to speak, please raise your hand. We'll give you guys about like a minute or 30 seconds probably to raise your hand, and then Senate Clerk Jyoti and I will create a speaking list. I'll read it off, make sure we've got that correct. And then we will have each member we will give you guys permission to unmute yourselves, and then you'll be able to address the Senate. So I hope that makes sense. I know this is our first time, so if there are any problems, like we'll work through it together. So with that being said, I know we do have a fair amount of attendees. So if you guys would like to speak, please raise your hand. We'll give you guys a couple seconds to do that. And then we will start asking you guys to unmute yourselves so that you can address us. Okay, I'm not seeing any hand raises yet. So we'll give it just a couple other seconds. The hand raise function just for the panel, for the audience members, just in case you haven't seen it, it's at the bottom of the screen. It's one of like the only two things besides closed captioning. So we'll give it a couple more seconds, but if not, hey, that's okay. Oh, I'm seeing one hand raised. Let's see. Okay, I've got one hand raised, so we'll give it a couple more seconds to see if anyone else would like to. Otherwise, we will. Okay, I've got two now. Okay, so right now I have Diane and Leah. So if you are not those two people, but you would like to speak, please raise your hand now so that we can know. Otherwise, we'll start moving through that order because that was the order in which the participants' hands were raised. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else. So Jyoti, if you want to give Diane the opportunity to unmute herself so that she can speak. And then Diane, you'll have, normally we would limit it to about 2 minutes, but since there's only the two of you guys, just try not to go over 5 so that we can be respectful of the other person who would like to speak's time. Otherwise, you are good to go.
Hi everyone, my name is Diane Solorio, and I am the Director of Advocacy for El Considio, one of the co-signers of one of the resolutions that is on the table for tonight. I just wanted to emphasize the support that El Considio has on behalf of this resolution. We think it's really important for this resolution to pass so that we can stand in solidarity with all students, especially students of color who, you know, due to like the circumstances we are currently in and like everything going on, like do not feel safe with a police department that is armed walking around campus at all times. So I urge all the senators to vote in favor of this resolution, SR4, because I think it's critical that USG stands in support with students of color. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight and speaking to us, Diane. We appreciate it. Jyoti, do you want to request for Leah to unmute herself? And then Leah, same courtesy extended to you. You can address the senators once she gives you that. All right.
Hi, yeah, my name is Leah, and again, I'm also here in favor of the resolution that the previous speaker was talking about, exactly for the same reasons that she stated. I think ASU has the ability to change the way in which we take care of our community on campus, and that includes excluding people like ASU PD who have historically made students of color, Indigenous students feel unsafe on this campus, and especially in regard to resources. I think we see those alerts when a sexual assault happens on our campus, and I think I would feel much more supported in this community if I knew that there were people with resources that were responding to those incidents and incidents like that again could be put forward with resources and not policing. Thank you.
And thank you, Leah, for coming out tonight and speaking with us. We do appreciate it. Since we do have a little more time technically allotted for call to the audience, if anyone does want to speak that is in the audience, that's not the two of them, could you guys raise your hands? If not, totally fine. We just have the extra time allotted in the agenda. So I want to be considerate of everyone who's here. I'll give it like 10 seconds just in case. All right. Well, I'm not. Oh, I see one. Is it Samia? I'm so sorry if I butchered that. Please correct me when you introduce yourself. If you would like to speak, I believe Jyoti just gave you permission. So you feel free to address the Senate the same way that everyone else did.
Okay, hi y'all. I'm so sorry it's loud in here. I got a copy job. My name is Samia, and I don't actually have anything prepared to say, but I would also just like to say that I too support the resolution that they're talking about, and I would urge y'all to support it as well when you vote tonight. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Samia, for addressing the Senate. Even if you didn't have anything prepared, that's a-okay, right? We appreciate any sort of, student involvement. We really do. Awesome. Well, I think that concludes with the call to the audience for today's session. Although just know you guys are always welcome to come to our Senate sessions and speak. We always have call to the audience at the beginning of the session. So what we're going to do now that we've finished call to the audience, what we're going to do is move into officer and administrative reports. So we'll go through different USG executives, and then our Dean of Students will have a question and answer with the senators, and then we'll do committee reports. So I'm going to start I don't really have too much to say today. I did just want to tell everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. This is the very first session of the school year. I know I've already mentioned that, but I know the senators and myself are very much looking forward to this. Jyoti and I have put a lot of effort into this, and there are a lot of different bills on the floor internally for internal appointments that mean a lot to us, and a lot of student initiatives that are really important. So thank you to everyone who contributed and put time and effort into preparing for today and being here today. And thank you so much to the constituents who came out. We have a pretty big attendee section today, which is really reassuring. I love to see that students are here and excited about student government. It's really impactful and it means a lot. So that's really all that I have. Just know that this is our first time using this webinar format. It offers a lot of unique services, like if you've noticed, there's closed captioning and a live streaming service, which is wonderful because it makes our sessions more accessible to everyone. But it comes with the fact that it's a new, it's a new streaming service for me and a new webinar format. So if there are any problems, please bear with me, and please don't hesitate to submit feedback to Jyoti and I. Our emails are on the website. So if there's any problems, please let us know. We're all working through this Zoom webinar stuff together, and we're totally fine to work out some kinks if there are any. So please don't hesitate to let us know if there were any complications from the viewer end. So that's all I really have for my administrative report. The next person in line is President Jacqueline Palmer. If you'd like to unmute yourself and give us your administrative report.
Yes, let me share my screen. I have a PowerPoint. Can you see it? Okay, 1 second. Okay, awesome. So these are our executive updates. We're going to be showing them visually this year. So I'm Jacqueline. I'm president of undergraduate student government, if you don't know me. For the senators, the Council of Presidents has finished our priorities for the year, which sets the tone for the change we'd like to see at ASU. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is a lot of things that we want to see. These are going to be sent out in an email to the student body as well as posted on the ASU website. I also sent it to you via email with my weekly COP email update. So feel free to respond and let me know if you have any questions about that. Intern applications to join USG close on Friday, September 4th, and university boards and committees applications close next Monday. So please let me know if there's anything that interests you, if you would like to join a UBC or if any of your friends would like to. Right now, USG is working on collaborating with many different coalitions, such as the Women's Coalition for the Say Her Name campaign, as well as 100 Years of Women's Suffrage. We're also helping on the Native American Heritage Month Planning Committee, and we're hoping to help more coalitions as well with their different months. If you have any student concerns, please reach out to me. I can help you. My email is on this slide. And then on the right, you can see a brief overview of some of the topics that the priorities cover. Some general updates for USG is make sure that you're checking your Slack frequently and that your notifications are turned on. I may message you on there, as well as office hours started this week. So make sure you're putting them into Clockify. Headshot scheduling is coming soon and polos are being distributed right now. So the polos are in if you come to the office. If you aren't on campus or in state and you don't feel comfortable coming to campus, please reach out to me. We will make accommodations for how to get your polo to you. And then I put important forms on here. So if you want to come back and look at this slide later, it's in the drive and you can look at that. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I'm not seeing any hand raises, but if we want, we can move into Kajal, who's our Vice President of Policy, if you want to continue with your update.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so like Kate said, I'm Kajal. I'm the Vice President of Policy. I'm going to do some quick updates on different events and initiatives that the Policy Department has been working on. So for events, there is a Dr. Crow Forum on this Thursday, which is September 3rd from 1 to 2 p.m. It's mandatory for all USG-T members. If you can't attend, the documented excuses should have already been sent to Trey, but if not, just go ahead and send that to him by tonight, if possible. They should be sent 48 hours in advance. And then on that same day, we're having our ASU PD safety walks, and that's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be capped at 10 USG-T members. So if you could and you're interested, please RSVP with the email that Bree sent out. And then on September 4th, 11th, and 18th, we're having civic engagement trainings from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And I believe Recorder Fontes will be joining us for the one on September 18th. On September 22nd, it's National Voter Registration Day. We will be holding this virtually. Mayor Corey Woods will be in attendance. He'll be doing a speech and Q&A. And then we will be having National Vote Early Day on October 15th and Party at the Polls or Election Day on November 3rd. Some different initiatives that we've been working on is getting TurboVote QR codes distributed throughout campus. So right now we've gotten approval from RHA and have distributed them through residential halls. We're putting together some civic engagement videos describing how to register to vote, where to vote, and how people who are in state, out of state, and international students can participate in elections this year. We're working on a sustainability action fund. We're putting together a plan for student government community service and volunteering projects. And then we're working on the Sun Devils Unite campaign. And that's it for me. If anybody has any questions, feel free to just email me or reach out to me.
Thank you, Kaj. Josh, if you've got some updates for us, he is our Vice President of Services.
Hi, thanks, Kate. So unfortunately, I spilled water on my laptop yesterday, so I don't have a visual or presentation for you guys today. But what I do have is some updates verbally, if that's acceptable for everybody here. So first of all, we're collaborating with different organizations around campus as much as we can. Our goal in the services department is to bring spirit, pride, and tradition to campus without the use of athletics currently, because they're not available at this time for reasons that we're all quite aware of. But right now we're working on putting together what we're calling a spark board that will utilize different resources around campus, bringing students together around campus that can help us get things going and moving so we are able to have those traditions that on campus that students can take pride in. One big thing we're working on right now is trying to get all the students involved to break a Guinness World Record. So we're really excited about that. Other things that we're working on, we have a blood drive coming up on September 23rd and the 24th. That'll be at the Desert Financial Arena. There'll be more information about that to come. But right now we're just preparing for the different weeks, such as Domestic Violence Prevention Week and also Mental Health Awareness Month. So keep an eye out for those as well. Right now we are doing our best to hedge for the current situation that we're in with COVID. We want to make sure that all of our services are safe. We want to make sure that the safety escort and the bike co-op services are functioning at top capacity, but also most importantly, being safe and following CDC guidelines. So that's just about all I have. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Josh. Now we're moving on to Assistant Director of ASASU, Elizabeth Rosenkrantz. If you have any updates or anything you'd like to tell us.
Yeah, sure. Just two quick updates. I know Kajal had mentioned this, but on Thursday is the President Crow Forum from 1 to 2. The link to register, and it'll also be live that same day, but you can register. And then if you have any questions for President Crow, there's also a link for that. And then another update to piggyback off of Josh, a safety escort is currently open. Bike co-op will open next week on Tuesday. So if you need anything fixed on your bike, just almost there, one more week, and then you can get your bike fixed. And then again, for senators, if you need anything as far as anything that you're working on for legislation, just let me know. We can set up a Zoom meeting, or we can socially distance in my office with mask and hand sanitizer and all that good stuff. But thank you for your hard work that you already are all doing, and let me know if you need anything.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I believe we have a GPSA Assembly member here who they do have speaking rights. So if you'd like Brandon to give your update, that would be great. And then we'll move into the Q&A with Dean Aska.
Sure. Thanks, Kate. Thank you, USG senators, for allowing me to speak here today. A couple of quick updates from the Assembly side of things. We are working on COVID-19 legislation to urge ASU to improve the transparency of the number of cases, the positivity rate of cases on campus, the total number of cases on campus, and the daily changes in those rates, as well as a campus breakdown. If anyone in USG is interested in collaborating with us on that kind of legislation, I know that y'all have your own COVID legislation coming up today. I'll be watching that debate with much interest. The second piece of legislation I'd like to talk about is some stuff regarding the Multicultural Solidarity Coalition and supporting students from all backgrounds at ASU. I'd like to espouse the Assembly's interest in continuing our collaborations with senators from USG Tempe and the other USGs, and so that we can kind of move forward and make the best legislation possible. If anyone's interested in collaborating with the Assembly on either of these areas, COVID or improving the resources on campus, reach out to myself or the GPSA President, John Hoyas. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. We appreciate you coming out tonight. It's always good to see GPSA at our meetings. And so with that being said, we're going to move into a Q&A and discussion with Dean of Students, Cassandra Aska. So really quickly before we get started, I do want to thank Dean Aska for donating her time to come to our meetings. We very much appreciate it. I know that you're very busy. So I really just do want to extend our greatest thanks for you being willing to engage with us. I know it means a lot to the senators, and I hope that it helps the constituents and the students here today. We really appreciate it. A couple of ground rules just for the senators, since this is our first time having Dean Aska with us. And Dean Aska, I'll let you take over in just a second. But what we're going to do is that Dean Aska is only here for 15 minutes today. And we want to be really respectful of her time. And I know I've told you guys about this in our little Slack channel. But what we're going to do is you guys can ask questions and have an open dialogue with Dean Aska, but what we're going to do is you'll have to raise your hand and then I'll call on you to ask your question. Because of the fact that we only have 15 minutes, I just want to urge everyone to be considerate with their time and their questions. You will each only be able to ask one question and then we'll move down to the next person. So even if you do have a follow-up based off of your initial question, until we go through the full speaking order, you won't get to ask your next question until everyone's been given the chance. This is to make sure that we're maximizing everyone's time and being respectful of everyone's questions. So just keep this in mind. It's not that you won't be able to ask a second question or a follow-up. It's that everyone gets to ask their questions before you can ask a follow-up, if you do have a follow-up, right? So I hope that makes sense. So while Dean Aska is, I'm sure she's going to introduce herself to everyone and maybe have some remarks. Senators, please be raising your hands. Jyoti and I will create a speaking order, and then we will move into the actual Q&A session. But it's important to note that it will end promptly at like about 6:44, just to be respectful of Dean Aska's time and the rest of the legislation that we have on the floor, okay? So with that being said, we'll turn it away to Dean Aska. Senators, please raise your hands so we can create that speaking order. And then we will move into it. So thank you, Dean Aska, if you want to take it away.
Wonderful. Well, it is my pleasure to be with you all this evening. I want to thank you all for your continued leadership. I know there's much work that you all have been doing, a lot of discussion and dialogue and advocacy, and engaging your constituents, which is what's most important. Because when you take on these leadership roles, you step into it with some ideas and aspirations, and then that evolves and merges with that of your constituents. And so continuing to bring forward all of the ideas and opportunities that exist for our students continues to be absolutely critical. And doing this in the midst of COVID, I recognize may not be easy in all of its ways. But in other ways, we're learning new opportunities to engage with our students. And so I think that despite COVID, there are some things that we're going to continue to do that we've learned throughout this period that actually adds value to our overall experience. There are a couple of quick updates that I want to share before we do the Q&A. One is hopefully all of you have seen President Crow's, and I don't think I have access to put anything in a chat, so maybe Senator Hassel, somebody can do that. But hopefully everybody has already had an opportunity to see and review President Crow's ASU COVID-19 management framework. This speaks to, and it's online for everybody. He's already done 2 updates to this particular website, and it is where we are documenting the number of students who are testing positive, also delineating it by campus. But I will tell you up front, in order order to ensure that people's identity are not revealed at some of the other locations. That is why the numbers are not delineated by campus for downtown and west. And thus far, we do not have any positive cases at the Polytechnic. This already has been updated twice. I can't answer the question of how often it'll be updated, whether it's a weekly basis, every other day. I don't know that answer, but the first one was on August 30th. And then again, it was updated on the 31st. So I really want to encourage you all to look at this. And then if you have constructive feedback about additional data that you think is important to be aware of or to know, please share that with your executive board. And so that information can be passed on to myself and to others as we continue to look at this and provide this information to the university community. The other thing I want to share with you, there's been a lot of student advocacy and voices with regards to the daily health checks. You know, students who are saying that they're not on campus or they're out of state or something like that. And so they don't see the value in completing the daily health checks. 2 points to that. As you know, we're taking on the opportunity to keep everybody mindful about their own health and well-being. So wherever they are, we hope that it's a ping with regards to thinking about how they're feeling. And at the same time, in light of the feedback that has been received, we are looking at a solution that gives students some option to be able to communicate if they're not going to be on campus, that they may not need to take it as regularly as they are. That solution hopefully will be clarified and launched within the next 2 weeks. So I hope by the next Senate meeting that there'll be an update to that particular information. The other thing that I know students are asking about is the Sun Devil Fitness Center. Is it going to be open? We are continuing to press forward. We do want it to be open, but at this particular point in time, it is not. We're hoping within the next couple of weeks, but we continue to monitor the situation with regards to the pandemic in order to make an informed decision with regards to whether or not it is going to open. The last thing that I will touch base on, and this is a little bit in alignment with what Jacqueline has shared with some of the priorities. I just want to let you all know that over this summer, all of the team members within student services across all 4 locations completed what is called To Be Welcoming, which is 15 modules that was created, yes, intentionally out of the Starbucks incident, but really speaks to different cultures and identity, culture, my phone, let me turn this off. Different cultures and ethnicities and different cultural biases, religious biases. And so our whole team completed that. We're a couple of folks are still finishing up a couple of more, but it is 15 modules that we did do. And so wanted to let you know that that is something that's also being rolled out that anybody at the university has access to. You all have students have access to. And as a matter of fact, the person who spearheaded that particular project is a faculty member here at our institution, and many of the people who participated in creating that are faculty members here and experts in these particular areas. And so we'll be conducting focus groups as we evolve a 2.0 version to have student feedback with regards to looking at the evolution of that particular initiative. The last thing I will hit on, and I'm going to piggyback on Joshua because you spoke so well to a very important topic, which is spirit, pride, and tradition. We are getting a lot of messaging out to our students about how to stay safe with regards to COVID. What our students also need is what some of your reports alluded to, and that is, what can we do? What's out there for us to do? So as you all are working with your constituents, as you're working with clubs and organizations, as you're working with the coalitions, it is really important that we continue to tell our students, to tell your constituents, here are the activities that you can do. Here are the awesome things that are available for you, even if it's virtual. Here are the exciting things that we can do virtually, whether it's a TikTok competition, whether it's, I don't know, meeting, whatever it is. We've had several speakers and so forth. And so I continue to encourage all of us to think about what are the things that students can do in the midst of this pandemic that keeps them safe, that keeps them engaged, that supports spirit, pride, tradition, but that also supports a lot of the other interests and passions that they may have through our many student clubs and organizations, through you all and the work that you all are doing in the meetings and the opportunities that you're presenting for them to engage. So I will pause there so that I could answer any questions, hopefully, and if not, I could hear what your question is and then be able to follow up with your executive team and or at the next Senate meeting. So thank you very much for your time.
Amazing. Thank you for giving us those updates. It looks like I have 4 senators right now with questions, or 5, my apologies. So we have Senator Lopez, then Scoville, then Decker, Ibarra, and then Huerta. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with that order. Guys, please remember to be considerate of everyone's time and remain, professional and respectful. But so we're going to move in that order. And then if we're able to complete it, and then, for example, if Senator Lopez still has a question, you can start again, but we're going to have to move through the full order. I'm seeing Caldwell now as well. So we'll do those 6, we'll try to get through those 6 people. So with that being said, I'm not going to take up any more time. Daniel, if you want, or Senator Lopez, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Dean Aska your question.
Yeah, hi Dean Aska. My question is regarding housing, since I was told that you are a person who is involved in at least the chain of command, if not the decision-making process for housing. We've been hearing reports that the quarantine process for students means that sometimes they're quarantined on floors with healthy students or in the same building as healthy students, certainly. And that results in a lot of problems where these students who are quarantined, if they leave their rooms, if they use their communal bathrooms, right, or if they go get food, something along those lines, they're interacting with healthy students. The instance I was pointing to today was that there was a fire alarm that went off in this building that had a shared residency of healthy and quarantined students. So obviously when they're outside standing around, they're now sharing the same space, interacting with each other, right? Is housing doing, like, what is housing's official policy on where students are quarantined? And then is housing changing any of those policies as we see cases rising?
Sure, great question, Senator Lopez. So our direction with how we quarantine or isolate individuals is based on CDC guidelines. So CDC guidelines allows us to quarantine individuals to have their individual bedroom and then bathroom or shared bathroom. Then if a student's room configuration allows for that and they're quarantining, then that may be allowable. Now, in all instances, students have to stay, or individuals have to stay 6 feet away from each other with face coverings on. That is always very important, no matter what situation or circumstance. It's the same thing if you go to a supermarket, you don't know who's there and what they're doing. And so the face covering and the 6 feet of social physical distancing is what is absolutely crucial in order to mitigate the spread of the virus, along with washing your hands and so forth like that. So we are educating students, as I'm probably sure that you all are hearing, that if they are quarantining, here is what is allowable per the CDC guidelines, and here's what's not allowable per the CDC guidelines. And we're looking to our students to adhere to that, to those instructions. And then we could send you the link, or you all can look at the link of the CDC guidelines as far as what is acceptable behavior for a person who is quarantined. Thank you, Senator Lopez.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to Senator Scoville. We'll have your question next if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I'd actually like to follow up on that question. So Dean Aska, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. This is really, really helpful. So does that mean that students who are sick with coronavirus will be sharing an attached bathroom for students who are not sick with coronavirus?
No, that is not. So the difference is, and I think you're asking a great question because students and families continue to ask this question. There is a difference between a student who is isolating because they are COVID positive. That student needs their own bedroom and their own bathroom. And that is different than a student who is quarantining who can share a bathroom with an individual. But the other individual has to be quarantining too. Okay, so depending on the room configuration and who's in the rooms, that will inform that decision. But we will not have we do not guide a student who is quarantined or isolated to be with a healthy person in the same room, sharing the same bathroom or the same bedroom. So I think I want to make that very clear for all of you.
right, Senator Decker is next in the question order.
Hi, Dean Aska. Thank you so much for being here today. I just have a question about the daily health checks that we have to submit every day. I know you mentioned it in your opening speech, and I really appreciate that. But I see a lot of students who are discouraged by having to do that every day. But do you have any positive news in regards to how effective that has been in helping mitigate the spread of COVID at all? Or do you have a percentage of the amount of students that are using it efficiently every single day? Just so we can help boost morale around with our student body.
Yes. So let me see if this has it here. I printed it out, but it is a small one. So we are monitoring it. The student participation is positive. I know one of the things is that if students don't participate in it, they could be sent to my office as a Dean of Students office or any of the Dean of Students offices across all of the locations. We have not arrived to that place as of yet. Students are, with regards to whether or not this is a direct correlation to whether or not it's stopping the spread, I don't have a specific answer for you from that. And part of the reason is that we're doing so many things simultaneously. So to isolate one thing, to say the one thing is a direct correlation to spreading the virus, I don't think I can say that at this particular point in time. But I could look at the numbers for us for our next meeting. It is on the back here, but it's hard for me to read, to be quite frank. But I could look at that, but you could look at it as well. Okay. I can follow up with you specifically to be clearer on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Senator Ibarra, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much for coming out here, Dean. So I just have a question. So with every new update, there's a greater responsibility placed on CAs and student workers. And I just wanted to know for transparency, and there's a lot of confusion in the res halls. So who exactly is responsible for enforcing the new regulations?
Great question. I will tell you, we all are. If you're talking specifically about housing, our community assistants are the ones who have the ability to document the concern that they're observing within the residential halls. Embedded in that documentation is that if they are behaviors that they themselves are not able to have the students stop those behaviors by asking them, either put on your face covering, don't come together, there's too many of you together, I need y'all to disperse and so forth, then they can call their community directors who can follow up with that group of individual who may not be complying with those guidelines. And then they have their protocol of who else that they call. At the end of the day, the individual can still be documented, and it is through that documentation process that then it goes through the disciplinary process, and then they would meet with one of the team members within student rights and responsibilities that would adjudicate the particular behavior. I will tell you that your peers are submitting communication to the Dean of Students office, even outside of community assistance. Your peers are taking pictures of individuals and sharing names of individuals who they are observing are not complying with this. I've had several conversations with students who are saying, I am taking this very, very seriously, and I feel like some of the other individuals around me are not taking it as seriously, and I don't want to be a part of that. And so they are not trying to tell, they're trying to create a safe environment for individuals. So what we do tell students, faculty and staff, whomever, is that if they are able to share with us the student's name and their ASU ID number and what the behavior is, then we would be able to follow up on that. Some of that follow-up can be a conversation. Some of that follow-up, depending on what the behavior, can be more than a conversation with regards to however which way the matter is adjudicated. But it is a shared responsibility. I know I walk around campus, and when I see individuals who may not have their face covering on, I do my little, and then people usually have it around their neck and they're pulling it. Maybe they stop because, you know, they need to breathe a little bit and so forth like that. So to specifically answer your questions, our CAs are asked to document that behavior, and then that will go through our student rights and responsibility process.
Thank you. And it looks like we have time for just one more question. So Senator Huerta, if you would like to ask your question.
Good evening, Dean Aska. Thank you for your time. A concern that I wanted to address was regarding the task force reports that have been published and the number of positive cases per campus.
The what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
The concern I wanted to address was regarding the task force reports being published and the number of cases per campus. Several students have come to me saying that they believe that the data being published can be misleading, looking at total cases per total student body population, as opposed to percent positive cases per test administered. Is there anything you can say to help address these concerns from students?
So students are wanting to see the data differently. Is that what you're sharing, Senator Huerta?
Yes, they've said that the data can be misconstrued or misleading, as the data shared has been students that have tested positive for entire student body at ASU, as opposed to items such as positive testing rate per test administered. Is there any way you can address these concerns from students?
No, I would have to look at what I'll ask you to do is if you could send me that question via email and let me follow up on that with you. That'll be helpful, or with either President Palmer or with Senate Chair Hostel. And let me see what I can follow up with regards to the data point that you're asking about.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Huerta.
Perfect. So it does look like we didn't get to everyone's questions. I know we did have the hard stop. So I do want to say, for the senators who didn't get their question or weren't able to ask their questions, because we do have to move into legislation because we've got a lot on the floor, please send Jacqueline and I your questions, and then we can get them all compiled into one document for Dean Aska. So Marco, if you want to include your question in that, we can do that. And then Jacqueline meets with Dean Aska so we can also try to get you guys another answer then if Dean Aska has it by then. Is that okay, Dean Aska?
And that is the best strategy, to compile it like that and to give it to me one, and then I could work through them. So thank you very much. Great suggestion.
Perfect. Yeah. So Senator Caldwell, Lopez, and Ibanez, as well as Huerta, or anyone else, please just either message or email Jacqueline and I your questions. We'll compile that document and then we will get those answers for you. Thank you so much, Dean Aska, for coming to our meeting.
Jump into another meeting. We'll see y'all later. Thank you for all your
Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your insightful questions. I hope that was helpful to yourselves as well as the viewers. So we're going to move into standing committee reports, starting off with the appropriations chairs, Nate Onbar and Kylie Vicala. If either one of you wants to give an update, or both, just unmute yourselves.
Thank you, Kate. So yeah, the appropriations committee has been going pretty smoothly so far. We've received a lot of budget requests from student organizations, and we've approved a lot of budget requests from student organizations. I'm happy to report that we have not had to deny a single request so far, and hopefully that will remain the case for the rest of the semester, because really what our committee is empowering student organizations and students, to improve the student experience through holding events and running their organizations as they want to. So things are going pretty well. I actually just about 24 hours ago actually held a but a virtual like over Zoom appropriations training as opposed to the Canvas training that we normally use. So far the appropriations training process has been going well, in addition to the appropriations process itself. So things are looking good. Kylie, if you want to add anything, please feel free.
I think you covered it, Nate, so good.
All right, thank you so much, you guys. And then we're going to move into finance chair. So Senator Hollingsworth, if you want to give us an update, I know you have some stuff for us.
Yes, so this summer already we worked on pre-fall funding. That was to kind of tide over councils until we hold our college council summit that's happening next week. So pre-fall funding has been approved for councils to use funding up until September 30th. Our council summit is going to take place next Tuesday in place of a caucus session. So all of you are expected to be there at 6 p.m. So I'm sure a Zoom link will go out for that soon. A lot of what Finance Committee does in the past has been travel funding. Obviously, that is not as likely to happen this semester as it has been before. So Finance Committee is working on alternatives that we can do instead of travel funding, or to kind of compensate for that lack of travel funding that's going to be approved. So right now we are going to be doing graduate exam reimbursements. So we're working on opening an application for that. And then for any virtual professional development conferences that might be happening, we would approve any funding requests for that. And then travel funding could potentially be accepted, but it's going to change every day. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Yes. And for senators, like she just mentioned, our caucus next week is going to be the College Council Summit. Pursuant to the bylaws, we have to get it done by a certain time. So I know you guys already know about our caucus times. So that's what we're going to do next week. And then we can all meet internally afterwards if you guys want. But I'll message y'all about that. Next is Government Operations Chair, Senator Decker. If you want to give us your update.
Thank you, Senate President Hostel. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. The Government Operations Committee, if you don't already know, is responsible for overseeing just as it sounds, the government operations of student government. So basically overseeing our governing documents. This summer, I was able to get to work with the government operations chairs and Senate presidents of the other USG campuses to kind of look over the bylaws and to investigate ways in which we can make our bylaws more uniform. And we did come up with some great findings, and we'll have a bylaw amendment bill and a subsequent report published for you guys by our next meeting. So I'll be sending out communications about that later this week. And then we've also simultaneously been working on amending the Supreme Court rules in the elections code, but we haven't gotten really down to our substantive work yet. We just kind of got the process set up so that all of the senators here at this meeting and across all of the campuses can contribute their advice, suggestions, and ask questions about the elections code and Supreme Court rules. The biggest thing there is that we have a hard deadline of October 17th to get our elections code up to date for the coming election cycle next February. So we'll be voting on it at the all Senate meeting on October 17th. I'll also be sending more communications out towards the end of this week about how we're going to do the process of accepting suggestions and amendments to the elections code. And lastly, you are going to see a bunch of appointment bills on the agenda tonight. The Government Operations Committee has been very hard at work getting those appointments made. So thank you to everybody who's made that really easy for us and really smooth for us. We will talk about that later on in the session. So thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Decker. And then we have the co-chairs of the Appropriations Committee, or I guess like Cameron just mentioned, hopefully to be voted in co-chairs of the committee, Senator Saidu and Senator Caldwell. So if either one of you guys or both of you want to give us an update, please do share. I know you guys are hard at work as well.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, I want to wish a happy birthday to one of our committee members, Yamala Ibanez. She turned 20 today. And so this Friday, we're having our first meeting at 8 a.m. So if anybody would like to attend, we would love to see you there. But the things on our agenda currently is Airmark. We want to do something about that because we have gotten a lot of complaints from students about the food on campus and the companies that ASU works with. And then we also want to look into hosting a town hall for students with disabilities so we can hear more from them and see how we as USG can help them. And then finally, we also want to see if there's anything we can do about the way sexual assault is currently handled on campus, because right now it's kind of a mess. So those are our top three priorities as of right now. But Rachel, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think that Senator Saidu basically covered everything. Again, our meeting is Friday at 8 a.m. I know it's really early, but grab some coffee and join our Zoom meeting. And just an update on our last meeting. I believe we passed 2 bills through, and one of them is on the floor tonight, which I believe is Senate Bill 4. So I guess that's all the updates I have to add, and I look forward to debating the bills tonight.
Amazing. And for any constituents that are here, you can find those Zoom links on our website. All of the committee meetings are public for everyone, so you are always able to attend. So you can find the Zoom links on our website, ASUUSG.com. And with that being said, I believe we're going to move into really quickly, coalition/SDLC partnership reports. So these are going to be 1 minute each. So I'm just going to call on the respective senator for each of these coalition/council groups. So I'll just call on you guys. You can unmute yourself and then try to keep it under a minute just in the interest of time, because we've got a lot to discuss today. With that being said, Senator Saidu, I've got you first up on the roster for the Black African Coalition.
Hello again. Hi, so the BAC last week, they had their Welcome Black events, which went really well. So as of right now, they're planning a women's table talk and a men's table talk. It's not finalized yet. They're just talking about it. So when I get some dates for that, I will let you guys know. They're also talking about the BAC Homecoming Committee and what they're going to do with that. And then the last thing is the resolution on the table tonight, SR4, was something that was written with the BAC over the summer. So there's nothing in that legislation that wasn't approved by the BAC. So I really want you guys to have that in mind when we do get to voting for it. And other than that, that's all the updates for the BAC.
Awesome, thank you. Senator Lopez, if you want to give an update for the Alliance of Indigenous People.
I don't have anything to update right now. We're still in basically communication about what's expected of us as senators.
And that is a-okay. It's the beginning of the year. We've got the birthday girl, Senator Ibanez, if you want to give us an update about El Concilio. Don't think I forgot. We're gonna sing for you during announcements at the end, okay? Just keep that in mind. But if you want to give your update.
Yeah, okay. So I've been in contact with El Concilio, and they are hosting a variety of events this coming month, as it is Hispanic Pride Month. And so we're really excited about that. I have not been able to attend their meeting this week, but I did attend last week, and we did talk about legislation that they wanted to add their names to that we're going to present later today. So we're really excited for that. And other than that, I have no other announcements. I will let you guys know when they do have their specific events and when they're going on. Last week, they did do a panel, and that was great. Our very own Senator Isais was on there, so that was very cool. Other than that, yeah.
Amazing. Senator Ibarra for the Women's Coalition update.
Hi, everyone. So just the little update is that last week they had Women's Welcome Week, and it was super fun. They had panels and a ton of stuff through Zoom and Instagram Live. So we have an e-board meeting in the next week or so. And if you just want to follow them on Instagram for any updates.
All right. And then we have Senator Tinti for the Asian Pacific American Students Coalition. If you have an update for us.
Hi, I actually don't have an update for this week, but we're just corresponding, figuring out how we're going to communicate this year.
Perfect. Senator Vakala for the Rainbow Coalition.
Hi, everyone. I also do not have an update.
No worries, it's the beginning of the year, you guys. And then we have Senator Isais for the Coalition of International Students.
Yeah, so I've been attending their meetings every week. And for the last meeting, they wanted me to ask USG members if everyone could make like a 10 or like 20-second video, just basically answering the question, how has being part of USG benefited you guys in terms of leadership and professional skills? And basically what this is going to be used for is they're going to kind of compile them and send it out to their membership of international students and encourage them to get involved in USG. So I'll also send something in the Slack about that soon, just so like everyone has that question and everyone can like submit them to me to my email. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
Awesome, yeah, and so we'll message about the Slack and that as well. And so I really encourage you guys to do that. It's a really great thing, and important to engage with our coalitions. So next we have some Sdlc partnerships. So Senator Mansfield, if you have any updates from the Programming and Activities Board.
So I've gotten into contact with Quinlan Ashlock and Emily Narducci, and I basically just set up kind of expectations and stuff and went over that. They don't really have any big events currently coming up, but I'll be sure to let you guys know when those are. They're still trying to organize their general meetings. They haven't had a specific day or time for those yet, but I will get you that information when I have it.
Sounds great. Senator Rifle, if you want to give the update for the Student Alumni Association.
With regard to the meeting for the Alumni Association. However, let's see, it was this past weekend, they did hold a welcome event, kind of like getting people familiar with them. They had like a little raffle and all. So, you know, it was all around a very, very good activity. So that is the current state of affairs.
All right, that's awesome. Senator Pitts, if you have an update from Inferno Insiders that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I've been in contact with RJ over at Inferno Insider. We're still getting everything kind of planned out, and obviously they have to overcome some hurdles right now. But I'll be sure to communicate their concerns to you guys, and then I'll always be our liaison for them. So excited for all that.
Yep, sounds good. Senator Sanchez Suarez with the RHA, if you want to give us your update.
I was able to meet with them last week, and they talked about the Somerset Fest, and it turned out they had a really good turnout, and they got some feedback from students that it went really well, even though it was like virtual this semester. And I'm still like a little bit trying to get contact with them. I will try to go to every meeting that I can with them.
All right, and then last but not least, we have Senator Scoville with an update about Changemaker.
So I'm still working to get in contact with my Changemaker contact, but I do know that they've been working on a lot of events about civic engagement, and also that they're currently in the process of recruiting new student coordinators for service, civic engagement, sustainability, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And the coordinator, the application for that is due by September 13th. So if you guys have friends who are, or friends or constituents who are interested, I think that's a great opportunity on campus.
That's awesome. Well, that is all we have for reports for today. I know it's a lot, but we've got a lot of involvement, right? Which is good. So I'm glad you guys had updates. That's really awesome. So what we're going to do now is move into new business. Normally for anyone who's here, we would have old business first, but we don't have any old business because it's our first Senate session. So with that being said, we're going to go through the Senate bills first and then the resolutions. So will the sponsor of Senate Bill 04 to confirm, senators, if you'd like to share your screen, you should have permission to do that. Read the bill, and then we will see if there's any discussion before we take a vote. And Jyoti will be sending the voting links to you guys just like before we take the vote. That will be in the Slack channel. So just keep that in mind, that that's where you'll access the voting link.
All right, thank you, Kate, Senate President Hostel. So this is an act to confirm newly appointed senators to the 18th legislature. Whereas the student body of Arizona State University's Tempe campus has duly elected or appointed their student representatives to the undergraduate student government Tempe during the 2020 elections period. Cognizant of the power of the Senate President and respective college councils to make appointments, as outlined in Title IV, Article 1, Section 2 of the USG-T bylaws, further cognizant of the powers of the Senate to confirm all appointments by a 2/3 vote, as outlined in Title IV, Article 8, Section 6 of the USG-T bylaws. Recognizing that the respective college councils have duly appointed Joseph Pitts from the W.P. Carey School of Business and Bhavani Subaraman from the College of Health Solutions. Therefore, it enacted by the 2020-2021 undergraduate student government Tempe Senate to confirm the newly appointed senators to the 18th legislature.
All right, thank you, Senator Mansfield. Now, before we move into discussion, I do really quickly want to address that Senator-elect or appointment Pitts and Subaraman. You can't vote on this one specifically since it is confirming you guys. So just know that. So please don't vote in the chat on it. You will receive it. With that being said, we're going to open the floor for discussion. So if anyone would like to discuss, please raise your hand. And then we will get started with that. Make sure that you're, I know it's our first time really using Robert's Rules of Order. So, it's a work in progress for everyone. So what we'll do is I'll call on a senator, they can speak. And then once they've finished with their time, you can say, I yield my time, and then we'll move on to the next person. Just remember to always move through the chair. With that being said, I do see one hand raised. So Senator Lopez, you have the floor, and then when you're done, just yield your time.
Yeah, I just had a question for Senator-elect Mr. Joseph Pitts. It is my understanding that you were appointed by the College Council for W.P. Carey. I just wanted to clarify, were you or were you not also on the College Council for W.P. Carey at the time of your appointment?
Senator appoint-elect, I suppose. Pitts, if you'd like to answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. At the time of the appointment, I was not a member of the E-Board for the College Council.
Cool. I yield my time.
All right. I'm not seeing any other discussion. I'll give it a couple seconds. Otherwise, we'll move into the vote. Okay, so I'm not seeing any discussion, so we're going to move in with the vote. So Jyoti, if you wouldn't mind sending everyone that voting link in the Slack. If anyone does have any difficulty accessing it, please let me know. I'm going to turn my light on in the meantime. I am wearing pajama pants. Please don't look at that. It's Zoom chic, you know what I mean? All right.
Could I ask for a quick point of information?
Absolutely.
Jyoti, do you have any preference for if we say like Senator Scoville or Diva Scoville?
No preference, just your name. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, am I seeing another hand raise? Oh, Senator Mansfield, if you would like to say something.
Just a point of information. Am I allowed to vote on this particular bill?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You're good. Yes.
Thank you.
And just for reference, point of information, you guys don't have to ask to be heard for those. I know we're new to Robert's Rules, so no worries. But yeah, so point of information, you guys can just unmute yourselves. You always have the right to have a point of clarification. But yes, that was a good question. And then once we have all of the votes, so Jyoti, it should be 2 fewer than we would normally want for today's meeting. Once we have all the votes, we'll let you guys know how it goes. And then for members of the public who are here, the voting record will be made public tomorrow. We'll obviously read the tally, don't worry. And then tomorrow you'll be able to access in the public drive. Whenever Jyoti and I are able to do it, you'll be able to access the voting records since those are pursuant to the bylaws public. So you will be able to see a breakdown just for reference. Okay, Jyoti, we've got 17 responses. That's what we were looking for? Perfect. So I can read it off today. So on SB 04, we have 13 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 abstentions. So by a margin of 76.5, which makes the 2/3 requirement, Senator Pitts and Senator Subbaraman are now senators and are able to vote. So a quick little round of applause, very exciting. So you guys will get to vote in the next one, very, very fun. Great, so that means that we are going to move on to the next one. Which will be SB 05. If the sponsor would like to screen share and follow Senator Mansfield's kind of procedure that he laid out, he did that wonderfully. You can do so.
Yeah, all right. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, cool. So Senate Bill 05 is an act to confirm the newly appointed Supreme Court Justice for the 18th Legislator. The undergraduate student government Tempe Senate, cognizant of the power of the undergraduate student government presidents to appoint Supreme Court justices to represent their respective campus as outlined per Title III, Article 1, Section 4 of the Arizona State University Constitution of Undergraduate Student Government, further cognizant of the power of the undergraduate student government president to confirm Supreme Court justices' appointments by a 2/3 vote, as outlined by Title V, Article 1, Section 1.1, and Title I, Article 1, Section 1.2a of the Undergraduate Student Government Tempe Campus Bylaws, recognizing that President Palmer has duly appointed Shaki Bott as a Supreme Court Justice to represent the Arizona State University Tempe campus, therefore be it enacted by the 2020 and 2021 Undergraduate Student Government Tempe Senate to confirm Shaki Bott as the newly appointed Supreme Court Justice.
All right, thank you, Senator Huerta. And I believe we do have on the agenda a time for Supreme Court nominee Bott to speak with you guys. So if you want to, I don't know if you have a presentation or anything, no worries if not, I didn't mean to put any pressure on you. But if you'd like, you can give us your little presentation and then senators will be able to ask questions if they'd like of nominee Bott. So if you want to take it away, you are more than welcome to either screen share or just unmute yourself.
President Houtstall, and thank you to all the senators, executive team. Happy to be with you all tonight. So a little bit about myself. I am a senior studying business global politics and supply chain management from the WPK School of Business. I'm also a part of Barrett the Honors College, and I'm working to get a certificate minor in the School of Sustainability and a certificate through the Watts School of Public the Watts College. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to be part of the Supreme Court and serve in the capacity. So making sure the 21st day numbers get to the proper people, and then really making sure the judiciary process is as transparent, fair, and timely as possible. And I really am excited to have the opportunity to work with you all. A little bit about my background and qualifications. Let me think. This past year, I was able to serve as a Pat Tillman Leadership for Action Scholar. Here, through this program, you really get to reflect internally and learn about what your values are and how can you use your values to best serve those the populations in need. And I really learned that my values are transparency, equality, and education for all. Technically speaking, I served as a undergraduate researcher for the Center for the Study of Religion Conflict, Barrett Writing Center tutor, and I currently work at the Alumni lab researching a variety of different topics. So technically, I am able to discern the information as needed as a Supreme Court Justice. And then I also believe that this position really is important to understand the needs of the student population you're serving. I believe I've been able to do this through my experience as an Apple for the WPK School of Business, as a WPC 101 facilitator, and as a residential engagement leader. I believe the variety of experiences I've had will allow me to best serve in this position. As a Supreme Court Justice, I would, one of my main initiatives I'd really like to work with the Senate on is updating the rules to be reflective of the current times we live in, and working with the proper committees. It does require a 2/3 vote to get it approved. The last Supreme Court rules were approved in 2008, so a lot can change in a 12-year span. So honestly, as a Supreme Court Justice, I'd just be excited to work with all of you to make substantial change for our students. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for being here. I'm seeing one hand raised so far. So I will say we'll be discussing this for probably, I think I allotted 5 minutes for this. So we'll end at 7:17 unless you guys want to extend. But with that being said, Senator Decker, I believe you have a question that you'd like to ask nominee Bott. You are more than welcome to do so. You don't need to like yield back and forth or move through me for this in particular.
Thank you, Senate President Hostel, and thank you, Supreme Court Justice nominee Bott, for being here today. I just have a quick question about if we're in a hypothetical situation in which the bylaws say have a specific clause, but you feel that you can use your power as a Supreme Court Justice to kind of evade what the bylaws say, which direction would you go? I know it's tough to say now as a hypothetical, but would you stick to the wording and the language of the bylaws, or would you use your authority as a justice to just make an arbitrary ruling?
I think if I'm perceiving the question correctly, first off, I'd like to say if there is anything regarding me that would question my integrity, I would abstain from any case at hand. And if it came down to interpretation, it all comes down to the situation and hearing both sides of the argument and really making sure we have a fair process and really sticking with making sure the codes are clear and thus interpreting those codes to be as transparent as possible and doing it in a timely fashion. I hope that helps. But in a given situation, it all comes down to the arguments of both sides and how the Supreme Court Justice, listening to both arguments and then conferring with the justices, how they would come down to making a decision. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Last thing, I will reach out to you about collaborating on the Supreme Court rules as well.
Would love that if controlled. Thank you.
And then Senator Pitts, I see that you have your hand raised if you want to ask your question.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bott, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I just had two quick questions, kind of a follow-up on each other. So number one, I know you talked about like updating the rules because like you said, they were written a long time ago. Do you think when you rewrite the rules, there will be some room to kind of set a precedent so that rulings made, let's say in your year as a Supreme Court Justice, will then be followed or at least looked at by future years?
So on that one, I honestly would, it all depends on what powers are given to me by the, and my fellow justices by the Constitution of the ASU bylaws, and I don't think it's the same as like the United States Supreme Court. So just making sure we're doing everything in our powers and not doing anything unjust. As in terms of changes I would like to make, like one right off the bat is in the current Supreme Court rules, it says that the powers given to the Supreme Court are by Title IV of the Constitution, when in actuality it's Title III. So like making changes that are common sense, like those, to making sure everything is concise and aligns correctly. And as a Supreme Court Justice, I would not want to overstep our bounds in any way.
Perfect. And just one more really quickly. Obviously, as it's no secret, what the Supreme Court becomes super active when it becomes election season. And I know there was a lot of debate about how the Supreme Court functioned in this past election season. So I was just curious, and it is kind of an odd niche question, so don't worry if you can't answer it. But what do you think the role of the Supreme Court, the ASU Supreme Court, is in deciding on free speech issues? Again, if it's a weird question.
Yeah, I honestly believe that the duty of the Supreme Court is to uphold the ASU Constitution, our bylaws, the election codes, and address anything related to that. I'm not sure how much power we would even have in terms of the whole ASU, in terms of the First Amendment, but as a Supreme Court Justice, I would really want to ensure that we uphold our duties as laid out by the governing documents. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bott. I appreciate it.
All right, so we've hit time allotted for the question and answer session. Is there a motion to extend the time allotted by any specific amount? Because we do have another senator who has a question.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Decker.
I move to extend the time allotted to questioning of the Supreme Court nominee by 3 minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, seconded. So Senator Reithel, you now have the floor. You got about 3 minutes to get your question answered.
Step for you to volunteer and, come out and talk to all of us. So my question, one of them, is with regard to the Supreme Court, activity, or I guess season as a whole. So currently the Supreme Court is very skewed towards the election time and, just check marking the 21-day seat tally. What areas do you see us as a Senate maybe should help direct the court, or you yourself help lead the court, to have the court play a more active role throughout the semester? So, mainly this impacts the fall semester where, like I said, there's very, very little activity in the court.
Yeah, good question, Senator. I think one of the best ways we could work collaboratively as a Senate and as a judiciary is just being open and honest with each other with what our expectations are. And if possible, I feel getting some judiciary feedback on things that may or may not be unclear with the updates of the election code, the Supreme Court rules, just getting our feedback just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So when it comes time to implementing and upholding the rules we set out, that everybody's on the same page and there's no major surprises. So that's and then could you repeat the second part of your question by chance?
If you're appointed, how would you shape things, especially in the fall semester, other than checking off the 21-day seat tally?
Got it. So I honestly think one of the unique positions of the Supreme Court, compared with the other two legislative bodies, is I feel like nobody knows about the Supreme Court, and I feel like that needs to change if we want to continue to be honest with our constituents. And really, I think just having pages on the USG websites, making all the documents open to the public, and just taking the initiative to let students know, what is the Supreme Court? What do they do? So really playing an active role in that, making sure come election season, nobody is shocked or surprised with that we even have a Supreme Court, and really just helping out however the Senate needs fit and the executive branch, and just working in a collaborative environment, if that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't see any more hand raises, and we only have 30 seconds left for the discussion that was extended. So I'll give a couple seconds, but I have realized that I made an error. I did not yet swear in our new senators. I am so sorry. So what we're going to do is we're going to swear in the new senators so that they can vote on you, right? So unless I'm still not seeing any hands, so the time's about to run out. But so we're going to move in with the swearing of them. We're going to swear them in. I'm so sorry, you guys. So I am going to read the oath piece by piece. And Senator Pitts and Senator Subramanian, if you guys would like to unmute yourselves, raise your right hand and repeat after me so that y'all can vote. All right. I,
Joseph Pitts,
pledge myself to uphold the Constitution
pledge myself to uphold the Constitution.
Pledge myself to uphold the Constitution.
You guys can talk over each other.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's not included in the oath. Of the Associated Students of Arizona State University.
As the Associated Students of Arizona State University.
And the undergraduate student bylaws.
And the undergraduate
student bylaws.
And to serve the student body.
And
to serve the student body.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
by applying my skills, my time, and my initiative, so help me.
By applying my skills, my time, and my initiative, so help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, you guys are sworn in. So with that being said, I'm not seeing any more hand raises. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move into the vote on this bill in specific. So Jyoti's gonna do the same thing as last time. She's gonna send y'all the link. Senator Pitts and Senator Subramanian, y'all can vote on this one. So we will do that, and then we will get back to you guys when the vote is conducted. Exciting, 2 new votes this time. Okay, and we're just waiting on, I believe, 6 people. Okay, still waiting on 4 or 3 more, 2 more. Just 1 more.
Sorry, my internet's being slow. I'm almost there.
No worries, hey, take your time. All right, we have got it in. So we've got all 19 votes by a margin of 17 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 abstentions. Shaki, you are our new Supreme Court Justice. Congratulations. Great. Well, with that being said, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to, but we'd love if you stayed to just check it out. Otherwise, we're going to move into the next appointment bill, which is SB 06. I know we've got a lot of these appointment bills today, folks. It's the beginning of the year. So if the sponsor for SB 06 would like to share their screen and either read the bill or dispense with the reading of the bill, that would be fantastic.
So just give me a moment.
Take your time. It's the nature of Zoom, huh? If you want, one of the other committee members who worked on it can share their screen, just in case you happen to be having tech complications. If that's the case, just let us know.
On our committee pulls it up. And due to the nature of these 4 bills that I have, I would like to motion that we, what is it from the reading?
Dispense with the reading.
Dispense from the reading. So we'll pull each one up, but they're all the same minus the name changes. So I don't know if Cameron, if you can pull them up, that would be great.
For audience member reference, these are the appointments for the directors of USG.
Yeah.
Hand raised was Senator Caldwell. Was there did you have a point of order, or is this specific to the bill? Because we're not in discussion yet.
My apologies. I preemptively put it up for when we do discuss the bill.
No worries. So I think Cam's going to share his screen. And then once you do, we can motion to dispense with the reading if that's the case.
So this is Senate Bill 6, Senator Richard Robert Reithal. You may, or you're the author of this bill, but I'm sharing it on behalf of him. Madam Chair, I move to dispense with the reading of this bill and the next 3 bills.
Okay, is there a second for just the dispensement of the reading? This is not specific to like the vote or discussion. And is there a second for that motion?
I second that motion.
All right, so we've dispensed with the reading. With that being said, we can move into discussion. I see Senator Caldwell. I know you have something to amend. So Senator Caldwell, you have the floor for that.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to amend Senate Bill 6 to reflect the changes in suggestions.
All right, is there a second or any objections to the amendment?
I would like to second that amendment.
All right, Senator Scoville has seconded. I'm seeing no objections, so it looks like we're good. You can press that little checkbox. Whoever's on the document, you're more than welcome to check that because it is now officially amended. With that being said, is there any other discussion? If not, we'll move into the vote. This is my sister.
Oh.
Hi, Anna, say hi.
Hello. Pleasure.
Cool. Well, I'm seeing no discussion. So with that being said, we're going to move into the vote on this bill specifically. Same process as last time, just check the Slack. And then when all of the votes are tallied, I will let y'all know how it went.
Question of privilege, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. What is it, Senator Ducker?
I'm about to have to switch my Wi-Fi connection really quickly, so I'll be like 30 seconds, hopefully switching that before I can share the next bill.
Okay. Yeah, just make sure to cast your vote before you switch the Wi-Fi stuff so we can finish that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just waiting on 3 votes, it looks like. Oh, just 2 now. Just 1. All right. Well, by a margin of 19 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, we now have our new Senate leadership team. I am very much looking forward to this group of individuals. You guys have all shown incredible prowess when it comes to addressing student issues and being communicative and engaging in open dialogue. So I'm really looking forward to this. So thank you, you guys. With that being said, we're going to move into SB 07. Senator Decker, have you had the chance to switch over yet? Are you ready for that or?
Yes, I am.
Amazing. So with that being said, because that has passed, we'll move into SB 07.
I am getting there. My apologies, all the screen share does take a little while, a couple seconds to load.
I'll be right back. I'm just getting my computer charger because it's about to die and that would be bad.
Is there anybody else from my committee that may be able to share? For whatever reason, it's not letting me pull up any of my bills or any of these bills at all, so I'm not particularly sure why. Or honestly, if any other senator is able to do so.
I would be able to.
Thank you, Senator Mansfield. So he'll pull that one up. All right, and we have already motioned to dispense with the reading of this one. Correct, Senator Decker, you included that in your motion, yes?
Yes.
Perfect. So we don't have to actually read through this one. So we will move into discussion. Please raise your hand if you have any discussion. I'll give it about 10-15 seconds. If not, though, we will just move into the vote right away. All right, I'm seeing none, so we're gonna move into the vote. Same thing as usual, Jyoti's gonna send you all that link, and then when all 19 are collected, I will let you know how it went. Waiting on 8 more. Waiting on 3 more. Still waiting on those 3. So if y'all could get those ballots cast. Just 2 now.
Question of privilege, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. What is it?
My ballot is not loading. I'm not really sure what's, I had to switch the Wi-Fi connection, so it still could be doing
Okay.
that. But if you would
You
like
wanna-
to take my vote by voice, I would be more than happy to do so.
Okay, the bylaws do say that we're not supposed to have other people seeing your vote, but given the fact that all other 18 senators have casted their ballots, they can't be influenced by you saying yours. So in this instance, with weighing that, I will let you say it by verbiage, but please submit your ballot and don't change your vote when you're done. So yes, Senator Decker, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. So with that being said, we've got 19 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. So SB 07 passes. And we will move on to SB 08, which the reading has already been dispensed with. Senator Mansfield, if you want to pull that up, because I think Senator Decker is still having some complications. All right, so since the reading has already been dispensed with pursuant to the previous motion, we will move into discussion. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to raise your hands if you do have any points of discussion. Otherwise, we'll do the same thing and move into a vote. And hopefully Senator Decker will be able to get his ballot cast for this one. All right, I am seeing no discussion, so we're going to move into the vote. If Jyoti wants to send that for all of the senators, and then same thing as usual, whenever all those are cast, I will let y'all know how it went. Just waiting on 2 more. Just the 1. And we've got everyone. Fantastic. So by a margin of 19 to 0, Senate Bill 8 passes. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 9, which I believe the reading has also been dispensed with. But if Isaac, you could, or Senator Mansfield, my apologies, if you could share that one as well. All right, same thing goes with discussion. I'm not seeing any. So I think we can move into that vote because there's no discussion. So Jyoti, if you want to send the link again, we're speeding through these. This is good because you guys read the legislation in advance. We love to see it. Just waiting on 2 more, just 1 more for SB 09. All right, we've got everyone in for SB 09. So with that being said, by a margin of 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention, SB 09 passes. So now we're going to move into SB 10. If the sponsor of the bill would like to screen share.
The sponsor is Senator Decker, so I can also.
Perfect.
Question of privilege again.
Absolutely, what is it?
My Wi-Fi is doing better now, so if need be on the next one, I guess SB 11 now, I can share that.
Perfect.
But here we are in Senate Bill 10. Thank you, Senator Mansfield. I appreciate it.
And I believe this was the last one included in the motion to dispense with the reading. I think we included 4, so this would be the 4th one, I'm pretty sure. But I don't know if I'm misinterpreting, let me know. Senator Decker, I know you made the motion. So I think we've already dispensed with the reading. Senator Decker, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong.
You are correct.
Perfect. So since we've dispensed with the reading of this one, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to let me know if you want to discuss, but I'm not seeing any hands right now. All right, it's looking good. So we're gonna move into a vote for this one, just like the last. Just waiting on 3 ballots. Two more. Still waiting on those 2. Just one more.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Decker.
This is me again. It is not loading. I am so sorry.
I'll use the same logic as last time, only in this instance because all 18 other votes have been cast, and since there's no way for you to verbally influence their votes, I will let you verbalize this. Just make sure to submit the form after. So Senator Decker, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. So with that being said, by margin of 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention, Senate Bill 10 passes. So now we're going to move into Senate Bill 11. If the sponsor would like to share the screen, I believe this one has not been dispensed with the reading of, just so that everyone is aware of that. It was not included in that original motion.
Senator Decker, would you like me to screen share this one as well?
It looks like I've been able to share the screen on this one. My Wi-Fi has been quite crazy, but basically SB 11 is an act to confirm the Senate clerk appointment. It's in a separate bill only because it's kind of in the office of the president, but also in the office of the Senate president. So we just split it up for terms of clarity. Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Decker.
I move to dispense with the reading of SB 11.
Is there a second for the dispensement of the reading of SB 11?
I second that.
All right, Senator Lopez has seconded this. I'll give you guys a couple seconds for discussion. Otherwise, we'll move into a vote. All right, not seeing any discussion. So Jyoti, if you want to send the vote, big one for you. All right, we got 12 votes in, just waiting on 7 more, just 4 more, 3 more. 2 more, 1 more. All right, by a vote of 19 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, we have our new Senate clerk and SB 11 passes. All right, let's move into SB 12. If the sponsor wants to share the screen, and then we're moving on to resolutions after this.
All right, here is SB 12. As you all were aware in the Slack, this is an act to approve the student program fee budget for the 2020-2021 academic year. I am going to go ahead and read this one. The Undergraduate Student Government Tempe Senate, understanding the undergraduate student government's responsibility to review and approve the student program fee budget that will provide opportunities, events, and improvements that enhance the educational experience for the students of Arizona State University. Whereas the Undergraduate Student Government Senate is charged with the responsible and ethical distribution of student program funds annually. Whereas the Undergraduate Student Government Appropriations Committee Chair has recently reviewed the student program fee budget presented by the executive branch of the Undergraduate Student Government Tempe for the 2020-2021 school year. Recognizing that the USG-T president has the authority and responsibility to draft an annual budget proposal per Title I, Article 1, Section 1.1, Section G of the USG-T bylaws, cognizant of the discretion of the USG-T Senate to approve budget proposals per the USG-T bylaws. Therefore, be it enacted by the Undergraduate Student Government Tempe Senate to approve the attached student program fee budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
All right. Now, before we get into discussion of this, pursuant to the agenda, Student Body President Jacqueline Palmer is going to be giving a presentation on the budget. We have a total of 15 minutes allotted for this, and this will include questions and answers after her presentation. In the interest of time, I want to make sure we're cognizant of that 15-minute limit. That puts us at about 8 o'clock. Again, we can always extend it, but I do want to be courteous of the fact that we do have 3 more resolutions that I know have been worked on coming up. So with that being said, Jacqueline, if you'd like to screen share and give your presentation, and then after your presentation, we'll do the Q&A similarly to how we did the one with Dean Aska and then Supreme Court Justice Bott.
Okay, sounds good. Let me share. So first I want to give a little bit of an explanation about the student programming fees for those of you who don't know. Proportionally, the student programming fee is split between all 5 different ASASU organizations. So this is GPSA and the other 4 USGs. So our budget all encompasses this. So I sent you all out the budget before, but our total is approximately $2.4 million for the Tempe campus. The way that the budget is formed is that the previous presidents of the Council of Presidents talk together and strategize for what the budget should be for the preceding year. They give their recommendations, and then when the new round of presidents, such as myself, come in, we make edits to it to what we see fit of the new circumstances. Especially this year, there have been a lot of changes considering the state of COVID-19 and many other aspects of the world. So going into that, I will just show you the budget, but also I want it to be clear that I will be monitoring the budget bi-weekly. If the money is not being spent in one area that I have projected it will be spent in and heavily in another, I can propose amendments as needed for you to approve if you agree. I will also be giving monthly expenditure reports so you can stay up to date with this. So first we'll start with the policy budget. Basically, the policy budget has increased by about $6,000 this year because it is an election year. The 2 line items that have increased are civic engagement and education. So due to an election year, we're going to have additional local and national town halls and debates, as well as more purchases to promote voter registration and voting. So this includes banners that we're putting in the MU and many other events that could be at National Voter Registration, National Vote Early Day, or Party at the Polls. We also increased the sustainability budget by $3,000 to further sustainability initiatives on campus at a larger scale. Moving on to the Senate budget, a few things have changed. Appropriations has reduced by $49,844. Despite the increase of clubs that we have seen in the past year, it is projected that there will be a dip in club requests due to the lack of events that may be happening due to events not being sanctioned. So they'll be solely online. However, there still are costs associated with clubs having events. So this is something that is going to be monitored very carefully to see if money can be redistributed in the future. Travel grants have reduced by $30,000. So this is because we're leaving about $10,000 left for this semester, and then the rest of the $40,000 in hopes that spring will return to sense of normalcy, but the $10,000 can go towards professional development, any virtual conferences or anything of the like that the Finance Committee decides. The engagement voting system is $1,000. This is a new system to improve our voting for ASASU elections. I'm sure you've all seen difficulties and technical errors we have had. This will have us rely less on UTO. The Senate contingency has increased by $500. There may be more contingencies for the Senate to need to spend money during the pandemic, so just a slight increase. And then College Council development reduced by $500 because usually there's food ordered at the College Council Summit, but this will not be happening this year. The Office of the President budget is here. I'll let you take a moment to look at it. I didn't mention this before, but the left side is last year's, the right side is this year's, the green. So going on to what has changed, there has been a $35,500 inclusion initiatives line item added. This is a new initiative for USG to help fund diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students. This includes cultural, racial, religious, sex and gender, sexual orientation, disability, socioeconomic status, and much more. So this can help us with things such as our annual Women in Leadership Dinner, providing students who need it Wi-Fi routers, and many other things that can fall under this umbrella. The operations office supplies has increased by $1,588 because of the pandemic. We need much more cleaning supplies to make sure that our station is sanitary. I'm sure you can understand that. And then training was reduced by $1,000 because our training this semester was online. Fall welcome t-shirts. I just wanted to give a brief explanation of what those were. The cost did reduce, but these are the gold t-shirts that freshmen receive at the beginning of the year. I know that you all received one if you went to that little assembly that there is at the beginning of the year. So they all still got a shirt upon their arrival at ASU, and this cost is split between ASASU organizations. Inferno Fest has reduced by $110,000. This budget was reduced to due to less production costs, but I'm actually going to go into more information on that in the next slide. And then a fall welcome speaker was added for $55,000 to cover the costs of a guest speaker, as well as production to encourage students to register to vote. This event that happened was one of our most highly attended events and actually our most shared Instagram post in promotion, over 1,000 shares. So we do believe it had a great impact with the Civic Engagement Coalition on voter registration at ASU. And then there is a new line item for student relief at $120,000 to offer student aid to those who find themselves struggling economically or with insecurity during this time. We recently had a $100,000 student relief fund that lasted about 6 months. We just ran out of money in it, so it's only right to reallocate it so students as they're going into the school year who still need help are able to receive it. So this is an Inferno Fest breakdown from last year to this year and the cost difference. The stage setup is usually anywhere from $145,000 to $170,000, and the artist is typically $60,000 to $100,000, which last year totaled to a little bit over $230,000. So typically the artist is not extremely well known, but this year with a similar pricing, we are able to get a much more well-known artist that will attract students to a virtual concert. The setup is anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, approximating the total at $120,000. However, if this total does become less than that, we will reappropriate the funds to other areas of the budget. So moving on to the services budget, I'll let you take a moment to look at this. And then we'll just move on. So what has changed? We increased the maintenance and operations for safety escort by $8,660 due to COVID-19. We are only using the golf carts and not the vans. So with that being said, our golf carts are rather old. They don't have a very long battery life. So we want to make sure that these golf carts are in top shape to make sure that students can still get home safely at night if they're on campus. So there are repairs that need to be done. Health and wellness initiatives have increased by $3,000. This will help us with blood drives that we are going to be hosting that also offer free antibody tests, as well as mental health initiatives. Collaboration events has increased by $31,000. So this is to support our fellow Sdlc organizations and many other organizations, including sustainability, mental health, anything of the like, to consolidate our efforts instead of us doing separate events and them doing them. We're going to work together this year. Samsara increased by $26.80. This is just the extra cost this year of this program. It's what we use to track the vans in safety escort, so they don't get lost or stolen or in trouble in any way. And then there is a new line item, which is the graduate student worker for safety escort and bike co-op. So context for this is that in past years, there has been a ASASU director, an ASASU assistant director, and then a USG Tempe advisor. This year, Elizabeth Rosenkrantz, our ASASU's assistant director and advisor, has absorbed all three positions. So with this absorption, she does not have the time to oversee safety escort and bike co-op as she has in previous years. So a graduate student worker would assist in making sure that these programs still continue to thrive with our lack of directors in this time. And then salaries and fees, I've gotten a few questions on administrative services charge. So this is basically just the service fee that it costs to move our money around from system to system. It's similar to any service charge that you've ever had to pay for maybe your rent or an electricity bill or anything like that. So it's about 8.5% of our money. This happens for every salary or any budget for ASU. So that's typical. And then these are our transfer outs. So sports clubs administration, PAB, COP, and then Council of Coalitions are all determined in our budget letter. So these things all are already pre-decided before we create the budget. And then this ASU PD is not for ASU PD's radio, it's for safety escort to use their waves. But that is all I have. I know that was really long-winded. I'm sure you may have a lot of questions. So please go ahead.
All right. So if you guys want to, I know a lot of you did ask questions of Jacqueline in advance, which is awesome because hopefully that'll save us some time tonight. But if you guys do have questions, we still have 6 minutes before we would have to extend the time. So if you guys have questions, could you please raise your hands or a motion, either one of the two, just raise your hand. I'm seeing Senator Decker has his hand raised. If you either have a question or a motion, and then Senator Scoville is next in line.
Awesome. I just have a quick question of clarification first for you, Senate President Hostel. Does this include our discussion time as the Senate as well, the 6 minutes?
This is for the question and answer specifically. It doesn't include discussion time. That's another 10 minutes. But I encourage us to have questions that will aid us in reducing discussion time, since we have 3 more resolutions, if we can.
All right. Thank you. President Palmer. I just have a quick question about Inferno Fest that I was hoping to gain a little bit more clarity on. I know that Inferno Fest is like a huge part of ASU tradition every single year, and that it's like it's important for the student body to like have that sense of normalcy. But what other organizations are involved in Inferno Fest besides PAB?
So Inferno Fest is run by all 5 organizations of ASASU, so all the USGs and GPSA, and then PAB. Insight has been taken from organizations such as Inferno Insiders, different athletics, and many other Sdlc organizations have been pulled in artist selections and things like that in the planning committees. But the main duty for meetings has been done by PAB and COP, but RHA also is going to be assisting us in freshman activations for drop-offs and things like that.
All right. And are they providing any funds for it?
No, they are not.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Senator Scoville, you have your hand raised, so if you want to ask Jacqueline a question.
Thank you. I also had a question about Senator Palmer. I also had President. I also had a question about Inferno Fest. So what meeting, like how would that take place? Like, would it be on Zoom? Like, what would that event look like?
I don't know the specific name, but it's a system that Stadium 365 helps us with. I don't know if you went to any of the summer concerts this year, but it's basically it's just a live stream from some sort of thing. But you can only see the artist, and they have a live setup in their home or wherever they're deciding to record, and it live streams. And then after that, there's a Q&A where students come in and ask questions to the artist.
Awesome. Senator Caldwell, you have your hand raised if you want to ask your question.
My question was also in regards to Inferno Fest. President Palmer, thank you, Chair Hostel. I was wondering if there would be any interaction between the students and the artist while they were performing, kind of like an audience would be, or if that would just be reserved for the Q&A that you just mentioned.
So there's a chat box in the function of live streaming, so students can say things, and then whoever's with the artist who's monitoring the chat box can communicate it to the artist while they're performing, and they can choose to engage with that. The questions are also going to be submitted by the students.
All right, Senator Scoville, we've got 2 more minutes, so you can definitely ask your question. Your hand just went down, was that?
Oh, no, I was just.
Good.
Great. And then President Palmer, so what did attendance and continued interaction look like at previous events like this? Like, did a lot of people show up? Like, what was the general response to other like live streamed concerts?
Yeah, so the 2 live streamed concerts that happened this summer were Jason Derulo and Iconopop. The Jason Derulo one I heard had a really good attendance. I don't know the specific numbers to tell you, but I did hear positive feedback about it, and students were excited to attend. The Iconopop one I actually hosted with Live 365, and I did get a lot of interaction from students when I was making announcements, so it was nice to hear from them in that way. They also were asking a lot of questions to Iconopop and all that kind of stuff in the chat, so that's just kind of how it ran, but I don't have the specific numbers for you.
Okay, we've got 1 more minute, so if anyone wants to, Senator Scoville, you got another one?
All right, I have a lot of questions. Why did the budget for childcare decrease?
As I said before, the budget for childcare, COC, PAB, and sports clubs are all predetermined in the budget letter. So it says you are given this amount upon the contingency that this amount is given to these 4 things. So the amount may have reduced for us, but it may have increased for one of the other campuses. So the total amount going to it would be the same. Kate, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, so we have hit the time allotted. Do we have a motion to extend time? There is another senator who has their hand raised.
Motion to extend questioning by 3 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, the questioning has been extended by 3 minutes. Senator Caldwell, you've got time to ask your question.
Thank you. So mine was, thank you, Chair Hostel and President Palmer. My question was just a follow-up on what Senator Scoville just stated or asked. So it was stated that the amount dictated to us to give to the Child Care Subsidy Fund was the amount that we're giving, but is that just a minimum that we're required to give? And are we able to give more if we wish to?
I'm unsure on the answer to that. Oh, Elizabeth is saying yes. So yes, that is a minimum.
Do you want to yield time? I can answer, but only if you want me to answer.
I will yield time to Advisor Rosenkrantz.
Yeah, you can always give more. So, I mean, I know President Palmer was talking about how you can, they're going to monitor the your budget every couple of weeks to see where things might not be moving. But last year, at the end of the year, they gave an additional amount. The senators wrote a bill and gave an additional amount to the child care subsidy, and those are given out every fall and spring. So even if that's just what's given this fall, you can always write a bill and give more money for the spring students. But the application is already closed for the fall. So if you want to give more for the spring, you can.
Thank you. And I also had a follow-up question if I still have time for that.
I have Senator Saidu who's raised her hand first. So we're going to do her. And then if we have time, we'll do you again.
Hi. So my question is, like, the way this live concert is described kind of sounds like I could go on Instagram Live on like social media and experience the same thing, because you can type your questions on an Instagram Live and then they could answer it if they wanted to. So I guess I'm just wondering, do we think that's worth it, considering there's a pandemic happening and people do need money? And I know you guys have like allocated funds for students in need, but I mean, people need money, they need a lot of it. So the few thousand that's in there right now, we could always put more in there. Like, it doesn't hurt to give this money towards our students instead of a concert that they could go on YouTube to watch, in my opinion. But I mean, it's not really a question. It's just, do we think this is something that we want to put our attention on?
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. I think the efforts for Inferno Fest to continue this year, determined by COP, PAB, and the other SDLC organizations, is that students do need something that exemplifies spirit, pride, and tradition at ASU to feel connected to their community. Right now, students may be feeling a little bit low about where they are. Of course, you can do an Instagram Live, but not very many artists are actually doing a full concert on their Instagram Live. So this is kind of a different experience in that way. It's also just tradition at ASU, one of the last ones standing in these unprecedented times, and it may be able to alleviate some students' stress.
All right, so we have reached time again for the question and answers. Is there a motion on the floor to extend it, or are we satisfied? There is another hand raised.
Madam Chair, I move to extend the time by 2 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded. So we'll extend it till 8:06. Senator Anvar, you're the one with your hand raised. So if you want to ask your question.
Thank you, Senate President Hostel, and thank you, President Palmer, for being here to answer our questions and for being very transparent throughout this entire budget process. I want to turn our attention just very quickly from Inferno Fest to the almost $500,000 allocated to PAB. I know, President Palmer, you indicated that that expense was something that was, contingent to us being able to have this money. But I am a little bit confused about what PAB will even be able to do with that money, at least for this semester, given that in-person events are not happening.
Yeah, so I don't know entirely what PAB's plans are for this semester, as it is a contingent amount. However, PAB does run very important events such as Homecoming, Family Weekend, and they also run Devilpalooza, which is in the spring, which is the spring concert for ASU. They pay entirely for that, which is where the majority of their budget is going towards. So that is something that may still be occurring this year, considering that that is quite a long time away from now. So that's where some of their budget goes towards, as well as activations online still do cost money. One of the most effective ways to get students to attend events, whether or not they are just for programming or they are for something effective, is to do giveaways. And that's why organizations such as RHA for their Somerset Fest was so successful.
All right, we've still got another minute. So Senator Caldwell, if you want to ask your question.
Yes, I just had a follow-up question to the previous childcare subsidy question. Because of social distancing requirements from coronavirus, do you see the cost of childcare subsidy increasing for the lower number of children that can be accepted per program because of the social distancing requirements? And do you see this affecting the amount of money that is needed for those people, especially considering that a lot more people might need childcare subsidy with having to work from home? Do you see that as an increase in cost potentially?
It could be. We can definitely reach out to the woman who runs the child care subsidy and see what the demand and application was. We can always come back and amend this. As I said, I am going to be monitoring bi-weekly to be able to talk with you about the budget every Senate meeting. But this is definitely something we can look into.
Thank you.
All right, so time has expired for the question and answer. I'm not seeing any other hand raises for extending the time with questions. So we can move into discussion. There's 10 minutes for that, so that'll put us at 8:17. So with that being said, we'll open the floor for actual discussions amongst the senators. So if you do have a point you'd like to make, please raise your hand. We'll create a call order, and then just remember to follow Robert's Rules of Order, engage in respectful discourse, and move through the chair so that I can make sure that we're doing it in an orderly fashion. Right now I'm seeing Senator Decker and then Senator Anvar and then Senator Saidu in my order of hand raises. So we'll move through each of those folks first, and then whenever you are done with your time, just make sure to say I yield my time, or if you're yielding your time to a specific person, make sure to indicate that as well. With that being said, Senator Decker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Senate President Hostel. I would just like to reiterate some of the things, like a comment that was made during questioning, that I think allocating $120,000 to Inferno Fest, despite its effort to maintain a sense of spirit, pride, and tradition on campus, is a little bit is the antithesis of maximizing impact, especially during these tough global circumstances that we're experiencing right now. And I think that it would be really important that we as a Senate maybe take some action to not approve at least that section of the budget, or that one line item of the budget. So maybe we can investigate ways that that money can be spent elsewhere, or the cost could be reduced for that particular event to maximize impact, such as allocating more money to the relief fund or the child care subsidy, or investing in critical infrastructure. I just don't particularly feel comfortable casting a vote in favor of the budget if that line item is still on there with that large amount of money that could be used elsewhere to maximize impact. Thank you, Senate President Hostel. I yield my time.
All right, next in the speaking order, we've got Senator Anbar, and then after Senator Anbar is Senator Saidu, then Caldwell, and then Lopez.
Thank you, Senate President Hostel. So I just want to make a couple of comments quickly on the budget, and then also a motion, but I will save the motion for the end. So the first comment that I would like to make is just to inform all of the senators present here today of a little bit of insight into the process of how this budget made it here today. And so I want to start by saying that we've worked fairly closely with Student Body President Palmer to, over the summer and, in the fall on a number of different issues. And one of the issues that was brought up from time to time was the budget. Student Body President Palmer, eventually proposed the budget to us. We all got that email last week on Wednesday night, but that was actually after the Government Operations Committee had voted to basically forward the bill that you all saw that was read here tonight to the Senate. So that bill was voted upon without the budget even being available to those senators on that committee who voted for it. Now, cognizant of that, the Government Operations Committee actually voted by a vote of 1 in favor and I believe 3 or 4 abstentions to pass that bill. And they voted for it contingent on that bill being tabled here tonight so that it can be looked at over the course of the next couple of weeks so that the actual budget can go through a committee the way that it was originally intended to be, and so that the process can be upheld. So that's kind of just like a procedural matter that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. The second thing that I want to discuss is kind of how I want to give everybody a little bit of insight into how I looked at the budget as the appropriations chair, because I deal a lot with budgets as part of my role. And so I looked at it in the spirit of fairness, trying to see if this was a budget or if an equivalent budget with similar line items was submitted by a student organization to my committee, how would I vote on it? Would I approve it? And unfortunately, the conclusion that I came to is that given the vagueness of certain line items and the fact that certain line items, do not necessarily have a utility that maximizes their impact on improving the student experience, as Senator Decker noted in his previous floor speech. Given that, if I were presented with a budget from a student organization for a high dollar event, say, that had similar line items, I do not think that I would recommend my committee to approve it. And so in all fairness, I think we at USG need to hold ourselves to the same standard that we would hold any other student organization. And so getting to my motion, I move that we table this, the budget and the budget bill until the next Senate session. I yield my time. Thank you.
Okay, so since there's been a motion on the floor, we'll have to hear the motion. If Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, this is my first time using Robert's rules really officially. If we vote to table it right now, no one else gets to discuss what they were saying. So do we want to second the motion, or do the folks who still have the raised hands want to speak? In that case, Senator Unvar could withdraw his motion if we want to further discuss the budget before you decide whether or not you think it's appropriate to table. So is there a point, is there a second on the motion, or would someone like to object and discuss the budget itself before deciding if you want to table it or not?
I second the motion.
Okay, I'm gonna wait for I'm gonna wait for objections because there are still 3 people have their hands raised.
Madam President, I object. I actually agree with the senator, but I would like to hear all the arguments before we expend the time.
Okay, given that there was an objection, the motion does fail in the meantime, to my understanding. I'm pretty sure that's how tabling works. From what I've gathered. Cam, correct me if I'm wrong. So then I do still have a couple people in the speaking order. I do want to do a quick point of information for you all, just so you have the context going into this. I should have told you all in advance, but just so you are aware, if we do table it tonight, we can't spend money for the next 2 weeks. So just keep in mind that this precludes us from spending money. Otherwise, it wouldn't be particularly reasonable for Jacqueline to start spending money on the assumption that hopefully you'll pass a different budget. So keep in mind, it does stop us from spending money for the next 2 weeks. And also, procedurally speaking, the budget is a weird gray area of the bylaws that doesn't necessarily necessitate committee vote because of it's solely Jacqueline's job. So just keep this in mind. It's just a point of information. Otherwise, we're going to move through the speaking order. We have Senator Caldwell. I think Senator Saidu was after Senator Caldwell, then Senator Pitt, Senator and then Senator Decker. And we do only have 2 minutes left, so we'll probably need a motion to extend discussion time. But with that being said, Senator Caldwell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just a quick point of information, if I may.
Yes.
Senator Caldwell. I just want to point out that as a piece of information, we do not have to suspend all, monetary dispensation from USG for the next 2 weeks if we table this, because there has been summer funding, at least for the Appropriations Committee, that is still in effect, and that there still is quite a bit of left. So it would not totally shut down all USG operations for 2 weeks if we were to table this bill. Thank you.
Yes, and to clarify, it's not that it shuts down operations, it's that it makes it less ethical for Jacqueline to spend things that she's proposing for you all now. I can have Jacqueline explain that further if she'd like. It's just a piece of information that I wanted to share with everyone. So Senator Caldwell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I make my statement, I also actually have a point of information, like a question regarding that. So you mentioned, or it was mentioned that in 2 weeks, we would only be able to start spending the money. Would we be able to call a special Senate session next Tuesday if this was revised in order to get that money sooner?
Yeah, we can always call a special session. Next Tuesday, we do have the College Council Summit, so we could theoretically do that, yes. I would just need to know in advance because I would have to notify state press and the relevant parties, but that's always a possibility. We can call a special session anytime.
Okay, thank you. Now that I have that clarified, I would like to make my statement. The reason I want to make this statement today, even though I support the motion to table this bill, is because I think it's important as senators that we, relay our concerns. And I have talked to, Jacqueline and executives about some concerns that have been raised, some questions that we've had. However, just publicly stating that I also, along with Senator Decker, I don't think that spending $120,000 on an online concert is worth it when we have had multiple students come to us over the summer. I was on the reopening committee over the summer and the outreach committee, and we had town halls. We had students talk to us about how they were concerned about CARES Act funding, how they don't know if they're going to be able to get that CARES Act funding. The university, to my knowledge, hasn't committed to giving any more CARES Act funding than the minimum that they're required to. And so if we're able to give this $120,000 to a crisis fund for students, I think that that would be much more beneficial from what I've heard from students over the summer. I also think it's important to have more information in tabling this bill because because we just got the budget, we haven't had that much time to have outreach with our constituents to see if they believe that $120,000 concert would be worth it because it's online. And as was mentioned in the budget presentation, there was a $100,000 crisis fund, I believe, that has already been used up just since the spring, and there's only $120,000 that is proposed for the whole year. Now, if we take the $120,000 that would be given to the concert and give it to that fund, I believe that going across that same period of time, that would just about suffice for the needs of our students from what we've seen so far, as people's rents are recurring, as people's bills are recurring, and they're still unable to work safely because of the coronavirus. As we've seen, there are rising cases at ASU. I personally don't believe that it's going to go away anytime soon. And I believe that this money should go towards helping those students so that they don't necessarily have to feel like they have to work and put their lives at risk in the middle of a pandemic. While I value students' mental health and I'm a big advocate of mental health, I don't think that this concert contributes so much that taking it away will seriously harm students' mental health or happiness or connection, and that we can have other events that don't cost as much money that achieve the same thing. So that is my statement. I know that it is pretty lengthy, but I think that it is important to consider, and I yield my time.
Okay, we've expended all of the time allotted for discussion for the budget, so we're going to need another motion if you guys want. We have 4 people plus Student Body President Palmer who are next in the speaking order, so we'll need a motion if you guys would like to continue discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Decker.
I move to extend the speaking time by 10 minutes.
All right.
I object to that motion.
Okay, so there's been an objection to the extension of the speaking time. So I think in this instance, that would mean that Senator Decker, I know you know parliamentary stuff better than me. This is a more unique situation. So is it most appropriate to do a straw poll here to see if people actually want to further discuss? Because I know an objection to that sort of motion kills it.
An objection just means that it won't be adopted by unanimous consent. We need a 2/3 vote in favor of extending time to actually extend time. So straw poll would be sufficient.
Okay. So I know that I don't think Josie and I have a specific form prepped already, but Jyoti, if you could really quickly create a form for them to vote, or we could do a verbal vote if that would be faster. I think that would be. Are we allowed to do a verbal vote, Cam, for that one?
Yeah, a roll call vote would be sufficient.
Perfect. So Jyoti, if you want to do the roll call, and I'll track the votes.
Yes. So first, Senator Decker.
I vote in favor of extending time.
Okay, Senator Huerta.
I vote in favor of extending time.
Senator Caldwell.
I vote in favor of extending time.
Senator Sanchez Suarez.
I vote in favor of extending time.
Senator Tinti.
I vote to extend time.
Senator Onbar.
I vote in favor of extending the speaking time.
Senator Riethel.
I vote against extending the speaking time.
Senator Ibanez.
I vote against extending.
Senator Bacala.
I vote for extending time.
Senator Houck.
I vote in favor of extending time.
Senator Hollingsworth.
I vote in favor.
Senator Ibarra.
I vote in favor.
Senator Pitts.
I vote in favor.
Senator Isais.
I vote against.
Senator Saidu.
I vote against extending the time.
Senator Scoville.
I vote in favor.
Senator Lopez.
I vote against.
Senator Mansfield.
I vote against.
Senator Subbaraman. Senator Subbaraman?
I vote against.
Okay, so we have a vote of 12 in favor and 7 against extending the time, which is a 70% margin, which makes the 2/3. So we'll be extending the speaking time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion was for 10 minutes.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Decker.
It actually only received a 63% vote, so it doesn't
Oh.
reach the threshold.
Oop, can I not? I can't do math. That's really embarrassing. So it did not reach the threshold. Thank you for correcting that. I really appreciate that. Please don't ever hesitate to correct me on that sort of thing. I made a typo on my calculator, which would have materially impacted the Senate. So thank you for catching that. I much appreciated. So it did not pass, so we will not be extending the speaking time. With that being said, we'll either need a motion to table or a motion to vote.
Point of information, Madam President.
Yes.
If we run into our 9 o'clock Arizona time endpoint, can we motion to extend the Senate session?
Yes, absolutely. We've done it before.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so with that answered, do we have any motions on the floor?
Madam President, we have a motion to table, or I make a motion to table the budget until the next Senate session.
And Senator Bonas, oh, did you second it? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was what you're going for. Perfect. Are there any objections? Okay. I'm seeing none. And correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Umbar, but that was till the next Senate session, or?
Yes, correct, to the next Senate session.
Okay. And then if we need to, I don't know if Senator Caldwell is interested, but we could theoretically have a special session. So with that said, the budget is then tabled for at the very least the next 2 weeks, barring any certain circumstances. So we will move on now to the resolutions, which is beginning with SR2. So would the sponsor of the bill like to share her screen?
Okay, I think that's working. So I'm going to read the bill, if that's okay. So it's pretty short, but it's a resolution to transition instruction online indefinitely due to COVID-19. I don't know Robert's rules. Am I supposed to say something before this?
No, you're good. You can just read the bill. We'll all learn Robert's rules together, but you're doing great.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna skip that first part, but it's just there. So noting that in Arizona, the COVID-19 pandemic has not ended and continues to pose a threat to the health and safety of all people within the state, members of Arizona State University, community not excluded, there have been at the time of the drafting of this legislation, more than 200,000 COVID cases and 5,000 COVID-19 deaths in Arizona. Noting that in mid-March, the university promptly shut down in-person classes at a time when there were fewer than 20 cases reported in the state, Arizona has now far surpassed that number. Noting that student parties have been frequently occurring in residential halls, the fact that many of those who have attended these parties are also attending in-person classes could exacerbate the rate at which these students are contracting viruses by being in the same room as those students, using the same bathroom facilities, and interacting with the same objects. As it has been confirmed, and this is an amendment here. I don't know if I'm supposed to do it late into the legislation, but there are now 803. So can I motion to amend that number?
Yeah, you can either do it after you finish reading or right now, whichever works best for you. If you'd like to motion, you can just say motion to amend, or you can do it when you're done reading.
Yeah, I motion to amend that.
All right. I'm seeing a second. Are there any objections to amending it to reflect 803, which Senator Isai said was the recent number? And this has been confirmed. Okay, seeing no objection, so you're good to amend it.
Okay. All right. So 803 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the ASU community. Further noting that universities which have opened similarly to ASU have experienced spikes in COVID-19 cases shortly after reopening. Notre Dame University, for example, opened August 3rd and has already seen a dramatic spike in COVID-19 cases. UNC Chapel Hill, which opened August 10th, has also seen an increase in infected students, and as a result had to move back into fully online instruction as of August 19th. Noting that ASU being the largest public university in the country by student population and with concurrently a higher number of students attending in-person classes, as of August 20th, ASU students are in greater danger of contracting the virus than the students of the aforementioned universities. This situation could lead to profoundly negative health consequences, including death for dozens, perhaps hundreds of students. Recognizing that affording students the option to attend in person effectively allows the university to absolve itself of responsibility for and faculty members contracting COVID-19, as it is currently the student's choice whether or not to attend in person. The university, however, in choosing to reopen, should be credited with the responsibility of students and faculty's health on campus. For the aforementioned facts, the situation is neither just nor tenable. It is clear that these interests run counter to that of the student body. Therefore, be it resolved that the USG-T Senate urges ASU to promptly shut down in-person instruction and to move classes completely on Zoom until the COVID-19 pandemic subsides in Arizona. Be it further resolved that USG-T Senate urges ASU to meet the increased needs of low-income students as a result of this online transition by providing free Wi-Fi hotspots with a much higher than 10 gigabyte data cap, as was noted by students whose data was quickly drained by hours-long high-bandwidth Zoom calls, among other online school-related activities. The way in which to increase this data cap are as follows: provide students with more than one hotspot at a time, and find a different provider that is willing to accommodate for such a need. Announcing via email and via other visible university publications that laptops and hotspots can be rented out for free by the library as to increase awareness and accessibility for students in need. Be it further resolved, the USG-T Senate urges ASU to take action to address these concerns by September 10th, 2020, and that the copy of this legislation be presented at the next ASASU Council of Presidents meeting by USG-T President Jacqueline Palmer. Be it even further resolved that a copy of this legislation be presented to Vice President Vogel and Dean Aska by USG-T President Jacqueline Palmer. And that's it.
All right, thank you for reading the bill. We are now open for discussion. We have 10 minutes allotted for this, which puts us at 8:39. Obviously, y'all know that we can extend time. So with that being said, would anyone like to speak on the bill? I'm seeing a hand raised, so we'll do the same procedure we've been doing in the past. Senator Decker, you have the floor, and just let us know when you've yielded your time.
Just out of respect for fairness, I just want to know if Senator Esais would like to speak on it first, since she is the author of the legislation.
Senator Esais, if you'd like to, you can go first.
Yeah, I guess just really quick to add, I guess the urgency of this is what's kind of propelling it the most, as a matter of importance for us as USG senators. I believe that, we've been in school for only a couple of weeks, but because of that, I think we're putting more students in jeopardy by the minute that they're on campus. So every minute that a student is on campus is another minute that they have to possibly contract the virus and, be subjected to an illness that could potentially damage their lungs for life. We're talking about the permanent health of students. So I ask senators not to look at this as like a partisan issue. This is definitely something that is just about student health. I don't want any of my friends to get coronavirus and have permanent damage. So I ask that people look at that aspect of it when voting on this and discussing it on the Senate floor.
All right, thank you for sharing. And you can always raise your hand again if you'd like to speak again. And Senator Decker, I believe you have the floor now.
I'll just be really quick. I just first want to say I think that this legislation is really great in terms of how thorough it is and how well written it is, and so I really appreciate that from the author of the resolution. I just want to say that I don't feel comfortable voting in favor of this resolution tonight, and I won't be voting in favor of this resolution tonight if it does make it to a vote, just because from the constituents I've spoken with, they fear that if we move to all online instruction, we're going to be forced to move out of on-campus housing like we were last year, and that it's really difficult for people to prove that they're essential to stay on campus, and we might be subjecting some of our students to situations at home that might not be as great, or places where maybe they can't even live at home. And so I just fear that this would be like a spiral effect, and that I think that it would be beneficial if we took a survey of our students and we were to table this motion. So at the conclusion of the speaking list, I'm going to propose a motion to table it so that we can conduct a survey over the next 2 weeks.
Do you yield your time, Senator Decker?
Yes, I yield my time.
Okay, and then I have Senator Pitts and then Senator Lopez in the speaking order up next. Just raise your hand if you do want to speak, if you're not the two of them. So Senator Pitts, you have the floor, and we've still got 7 minutes left of speaking on this bill.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to firstly say, like Senator Decker said, I really appreciated how thorough this bill was. I think there's a lot of good things in it. But I reflect a lot of the same concerns that Senator Decker does, and I think we should table it. And I will concur with the tabling of the resolution, just in the sense that I think we should get a thorough pulse of the student body so that we know what we're dealing with. If we're dealing with something that 90% of students would agree with, which of course we can move ahead with, or if we're agreeing with something with maybe only 60, 50 or less they agree with, that's going to be a different circumstance. Furthermore, I think the precedent we set with these sort of resolutions, I think sometimes they seem much more like laundry list items that we send to the administration that don't enact the change we're seeking. If we were, let's say, the Arizona Board of Regents, I think this might be something we could take up and consider. But I do think when we propose, and just kind of setting out my policy for how I'll vote on resolutions moving forward, when we propose these sort of resolutions, I think we have to have a keen interest in how the administration and how President Crow and how the deans are going to react to it. And I believe we have to have a very keen sense of what our leverage is in regards to the administration and how we can keep in our good graces with the administration, while also still protecting and standing up for the students we represent. I yield my time.
All right, we've got Senator Lopez. Then next in the speaking order, we've got Senator Isais and then Saidu. So Senator Lopez, you have the floor. We've still got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I would like to generally announce my support for this bill. I will be voting yes on the resolution, assuming it goes to a vote. Largely due because of the time-sensitive matter of this, right? As Senator Isais said, there was every single day that passes is time for more students and faculty to get sick. We don't want that happening. In response to Senator Decker's concern specifically about housing, I can only speak for myself, but as like a signee of this bill or of this resolution, you know, that is obviously, we don't want students forcibly evicted from their housing, right? I understand the concern about if we move to all online classes, they may move housing to a period, like they may shut down housing. But frankly, I think that those two things, while connected, I don't think there's necessarily a causal link there, whereas, you know, if instruction goes online, we now have to shut down the dorms, right? As we've seen in the past, I think that these two things, while related, are not necessarily a point A, point B kind of understanding. If you looked at ASU's COVID plan, there's like 5 stages of housing restriction, right? Right now we're at stage 3. And in any case, if the administration did decide to suddenly close housing and require the eviction of students, unless they could prove their necessity, I mean, I can speak for myself that I would certainly oppose that, right? And that's something that a bridge we can come to if we cross it. I don't think we can sacrifice the health of some students in order to promote the safety of others. And I would like to add, in order to like Senator Pitt's comments about, you know, keeping in mind how we pass resolutions. If we're talking about leverage, as a undergraduate student government, we have no leverage necessarily, right? We can't force anyone to do anything. What we are expressing is what we believe is best for the student body, and in some cases, directly what they want as information we've gathered. And on that mark, when it comes to tabling this bill, extending it what is likely going to be 2 weeks, which, as we've seen, we had to amend the bill because in 3 days or 4 days since it was written, the situation has changed quite drastically. I can't even imagine what it will look like in 2 weeks. You know, if you polled freshman ASU students right now, hey, do you want to be able to go to frat and sorority parties? I imagine they would say yes. I would never put a resolution on the floor telling ASU to start sponsoring frat and sorority parties right now. I think that in some cases, what the students want is very important, and we should absolutely take what their needs and their wants are into concern. But I think in other cases, we should recognize that as, you know, elected senators, that we understand that for example, the need of those students to go party does not outweigh the need of other students to feel safe on campus from the coronavirus, right? And while I'm absolutely positive there are some students who particularly value their ability to go to in-person classes right now, there are students who are deathly afraid of getting the coronavirus because of their pre-existing health conditions, right? And that these two student interests are directly in conflict, but one of them pertains to the life and health of a student, whereas the other is their preference in learning. And with that, I would yield my time.
All right, so we've still got 2 more minutes, and we've got Senator Isais going first, and then we can extend the speaking time afterwards for the other 3 folks in the speaking order. So you have
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was wondering, is the audience allowed to comment on this? If I wasn't mistaken, I think some folks wanted to come out and speak in favor.
Yeah, so just for like reference, we can, if we can yield time to audience members if during the discussion, but they normally would have to speak at the call to the audience. For them to, you'd have to like let me know, like you'd have to contact, they'd have to be in contact with you somehow, I guess, if that makes sense, since they don't normally have speaking rights. I don't know if, I hope that answers your question. And then if you have other stuff to say, you can also say that, because I know that was just a question.
Yeah, it does help. I guess it's good that the audience knows like that time can be yielded to them. So I guess if like they raise their hand in the chat, that can be an option for them.
Yes, a senator would just have to yield time, since audience members don't automatically have speaking rights, whereas you guys do.
Okay, all right, yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right, was that it for this specific set of talking for you, Senator?
My bad.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just wanted to reiterate Daniel's point, and to touch on, sorry, Senator Daniel, I don't know, his point about like the urgency of this, and that's the reason for it. And also I'd like to point out that last semester, students were not like forcibly evicted from their housing. They were given the option to move out, which I thought it was a bad method of doing it, but I believe that the university would do something similar this year. So it would be something like that full transition to Zoom that we had last semester.
All right, so we have filled up the speaking time. We do still have 3 people. Is there a motion to extend the speaking time by a specific amount?
I motion to extend the speaking time by 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Do we have a second on that motion?
I second.
All right, seconded. And then do we have any objections?
I object.
All right, so should we do the same thing as we did last time with the votes? Is the objection, point of clarification for me, is the objection because you think 10 minutes is too much, and or is it because you don't want to extend it at all? Just asking for reference.
It's just because I don't want to extend it at all.
Okay, so I was gonna say if it's just because it's too much, we could do another motion. So we're gonna have to do another vote. We can do it the same way as we did last time, since Joji and I don't have little things prepared for you guys. So it'll have to pass by a 2/3 vote, which would be 13, not 12 people saying yes. So we can do that. It's going to take a little bit of time. So Jyoti, if you want to do another roll call, hopefully we can speed through this a little more. So if everyone wants to unmute themselves now, so that when she calls on you, you don't have to take the time to unmute yourself. I think that would help speed it up just a wee bit.
Yes, so for Senator Decker.
Against extending time?
Senator Huerta.
For extending time.
Senator Caldwell.
For extending time.
Senator Sanchez Suarez.
For extending time.
Senator Titi.
Against extending time.
Senator Anbar.
For extending time.
Senator Rizo.
Against extending time.
Senator Ibanez.
For extending time.
Senator Vakala.
Against extending.
Senator Hauk.
Against extending time.
Senator Hollingsworth.
Against extending.
Senator Ibarra.
For extending.
Senator Pitts.
Against extending time.
Senator Isais.
For extending time.
Senator Saidu.
For extending time.
Senator Scoville.
For extending time.
Senator Lopez.
For extending time.
Senator Mansfield.
For extending time.
Senator Subramanian.
Against extending time.
Okay, so we have 11 ayes and 8 nays. So the time extension fails. It does not meet the 2/3 margin. So we are not going to be extending time, but is there either a motion to table or a motion to vote? We can do either one.
I motion to vote. Oh,
My
there we
bad.
go.
Okay.
Seconded.
Do you have a second on that one?
I'm sorry, could I motion for 5 minutes of speaking time, or is that not allowed?
We'll have to withdraw the motion to vote first. That's just a procedural thing, because we can only do one thing at a time. So is there a withdrawing of the motion to vote? That doesn't mean you can't do the same motion in a couple seconds. Either, either Ibanez or Lopez, if one of you could, since you motioned that.
I'll withdraw the motion to vote.
Just a procedural thing, Robert's rules. Okay, so then now we have another motion to extend, but only by 5 minutes. Is there a second or an objection?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'm hearing no objection, so we're gonna extend it by 5 minutes. So
Point of information.
Yes.
Could I motion to extend our Senate session so that in the future, when we're discussing how long we should discuss, that is not a consideration?
Yeah, so I mean, since we already finished that motion, then yes, we can extend the Senate session. Is there a motion to extend it by a specific amount of time?
I motion to extend the Senate session by 1 hour so that we have a
By
10
1
o'clock
hour?
Arizona time end.
Okay. That doesn't mean that if we end earlier, that we can't end earlier. We can always end earlier than that, just for everyone's reference. Is there a second or an objection for the motion to extend the whole session up to an hour?
Second.
I object.
Okay, there's an objection. Is your objection because you're not willing to do a full hour? Would you be more amenable to a shorter amount of time?
Yes, I think a shorter amount of time would be better.
Okay, so that motion has failed because it was objected to. We can either do a vote or there could be another motion to extend by a slightly shorter amount of time. Senator Lopez, whichever one works for you.
I'm going to request that we go to a vote because if I motion for 30 minutes and it runs out, I'm just going to motion for another 30 minutes. So let's just vote it out.
And you know what? That's fair. Hey, we make communal decisions here. It's important. So we're going to do the same thing. Everyone, please unmute yourselves. I think that made it a little bit faster. Jyoti, you're going to get really familiar with their names. I mean, we should already know them, but so we're going to do the same roll call vote. Needs a 2/3. So we need 13 out of the 19 senators to vote to extend by an hour.
Yes. First, Senator Decker,
Against.
Senator Huerta,
For.
Senator Caldwell,
4.
Senator Sanchez Suarez,
For.
Senator Tinti,
Against.
Senator Anbar,
Against.
Senator Rito,
Against.
Senator Ibanez,
4.
Senator Vakala,
Against.
Senator Hauk,
Against.
Senator Hollingsworth,
For.
Senator Ibarra,
For.
Senator Pitts,
For.
Senator Isais,
4.
Senator Saidu,
4.
Senator Scoville,
4.
Senator Lopez,
Or
Senator Mansfield,
For.
Senator Subramanian.
Against.
Okay, so it got 12-7. So the motion to extend by an hour does fail. Is there another motion on the table for extending this session? We've already extended speaking time by 5 minutes.
I motion to extend the Senate session by 45 minutes.
Are we more of, is there a second for that one?
Second.
Can I say something first?
Is it a point of?
I just wanted to say that the reason we're trying to extend the time is because the 2 other legislations are really important, especially the third one for ASU PD, which was backed by 2 coalitions. So I think it's really important that we hear them tonight, especially since we have to relay this information to the coalitions later this week. So if it's just a matter of time, I really think we should wait it out and just listen to them at least. But other than that, that's all I have to say.
All right. And I will say I can't vote, but I will express a similar sentiment. These pieces of legislation are important for us to at least consider tonight. I know you aren't expected to stay here until 9. If any of you actually have to go at 9, we can still meet quorum if only a small amount of people do leave. If you need to leave, please message me. We can still vote if we have quorum, and we have quorum by 2 right now, I believe. So with that being said, are there any objections to the motion to extend by 45 minutes? It has already been seconded. Okay, seeing none, we will extend the time by 45 minutes. If you need to leave, I need you to let me know ASAP because we have to make sure we can meet quorum. If we aren't at quorum, we can't hear the bills. So I need you to tell me now if you are a senator who physically cannot stay. Otherwise, you are expected to be here. This is your job. Okay. With that being said, we've got 5 minutes left for Senator Isaias's bill. I don't at this point remember who was next in the speaking order. I think it was Senator Saidu and then maybe Senator Caldwell. So if you guys could just re-raise your hands, we have another 5 minutes for that bill. Or if there is a motion, we can do that as well. I see Senator Saidu's got her hand raised, so I'm going to assume you want to talk. So you have the floor.
There's nothing that I can say that hasn't already been said, but I am going to be voting yes on this personally, but that's because it's really important and it's also really time sensitive because like Senator Lopez said in his own statement, cases are rising really fast every day. Like when this legislation was written, there were only about 100 cases and now we're at 800. So give it another 3 days, we could be in the thousands. So I think it's really important for us to vote on this today and to hopefully pass it because we don't want to get to the point where students are attending classes and there's thousands of kids on campus that have this seriously contagious virus. And the other thing to what Senator Pitts had said about how we kind of don't want to, I don't know what he said exactly, but it was more in the lines of he doesn't want to upset admin or he wants us to have a good relationship with them. We can still have a good relationship with them by passing this. I don't understand why this is like a touchy subject for them. And also we are student government. Ultimately, we're supposed to be here for the students and everything that we do is supposed to be for the students. It is a good idea for us to have a good relationship with admin, of course, but we're not here to represent admin. We need to have the students' best interests at heart. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
All right, we still got 3 more minutes. We've got Senator Caldwell, Senator Huerta, and then the sponsor of the bill. So Senator Caldwell, if you'd like to make some comments pretty quickly.
Thank you, President Hostel. I just wanted to address a concern that came up earlier about what will happen to students in housing if we shut down the university. And I would like to reiterate that just because we're shutting down classes doesn't mean that we're shutting down housing. And I think that it would actually make it better for those in housing because if we allow this to go on as it is, it might get to the point where they have to kick people out of housing because the spread is so severe. However, if we take students off out of their classes now and we make sure that they're not spreading it in their classes, that could actually give a chance for those in housing to be able to stay because the spread slows. And that is, I yield my time.
All right, Senator Huerta, you're up next.
I just have a quick concern regarding the bill. If Senator Isaias would like to address it following this, I'll try to make it super quick. My question is like whether we believe that in-person classes are the main source of transmission to where there would be any mitigated effect through the cancellation of in-person classes. Because in my like 90-person lectures, I have maybe 5 people going to class, 10 going to class physically. When housing remains open and you have students attending parties off campus where that seems to be the main source of transmission, I'm just not sure how effective.
Point of information. The split between cases that are on campus and off campus, there's actually a greater amount of students who are off campus students who have coronavirus. The only way that, like, for example, if we're talking about housing or preserving people being able to stay in housing, the only way those cases spread within the ASU community, like at least officially, that we can control is via in-person classes, right? Because if you're an off-campus student, the only thing that you're attending on campus right now really should be in-person classes. Obviously, we can't control if ASU students are going to parties or doing off-campus activities, but the in-person classes would be how those off-campus cases become on-campus cases and vice versa.
And I'd like to respond to Senator Huerta's comment there.
Yeah,
so,
sorry, Senator Huerta, were you done with your question? I wasn't sure.
Yes, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, sorry, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to clarify. You're good. You can answer.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to it real quick. I guess that kind of points to the point in the legislation where we talk about using the same facilities, students using the same facilities on campus when they attend classes. So those same facilities are like desk, where you sit, where 5 other students sat before you. You don't know if they sneezed on the desk. It's kind of like all those little, logistics when it comes to like how this disease is transmitted. So I don't doubt at all that shutting down in-person classes wouldn't mitigate it by some degree, if not by a huge margin. So I'm not a scientist, but I know that's probably something that has to do with it. And, we didn't see all these cases until, classes started. So I think that might be good to keep in mind when considering that question. And I yield the rest of my time.
All right, that does put us up at the 5 minutes. We do still have one person with their hand raised. Is there either a motion to vote, table, or extend the speaking order? Those are the 3 motions we can do right now.
I'd like to
motion to vote.
Okay, the motion on the floor is a motion to vote. Is there a second for this motion or an objection?
Second.
Hearing seconds. I'm not hearing any objections. Okay, so we're gonna go into a vote. Jyoti, if you want to send this, that would be fantastic. And so y'all can take your vote. Still waiting on 7 more, 8 more, 7 now. 5 more, 3 more, 2 more. One more vote. All right. So by a margin of 13 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 abstention, SRO2 passes. So we're going to now move into SRO3. So if the sponsor of the bill, which I believe is Senator Lopez, you have the floor and you can screen share, and we'll move into this one, which also has 10 minutes of discussion once you're done with the reading.
All right, is screen share working properly for everyone? Okay, great. So I'm going to read through this bill. Whereas this resolution has an attached explainer document, which I will not be reading, that was largely for senators to look through prior to the reading or prior to the bill moving to motion. Whereas the state of Arizona is currently battling COVID-19, with Maricopa County in particular experiencing roughly 300 new cases per day at time of writing. Noting that the spread of coronavirus has an incredibly detrimental effect not only on ASU students and employees, but the surrounding community within Tempe that constantly interacts with ASU students and employees. Whereas Arizona State University officials have stated previously that they are not planning to publish or publicly announce data referring to the number of students, faculty, and staff who test positive for the coronavirus, claiming that it is not useful information, and for note that stance has evolved, obviously. Noting that Arizona State University officials did not claim that there are legal barriers to sharing anonymized COVID-19 tested data, which accurately reflects that there are none. Noting further that the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, has exemptions which specifically allow for public health authorities to release anonymized data, as other universities have at this time. Whereas the privately run Twitter account, ASU COVID Tracker, announced that there was an outbreak of COVID-19 in the Greek Leadership Village, citing anonymous student sources. Noting that this report, if true, suggests that ASU's lack of transparency regarding COVID-19 testing data is preventing students from being aware of the risks posed by on-campus life. Noting further that, if false, this report suggests that ASU's lack of transparency regarding COVID-19 testing data is creating a panic among students who do not have any public health authorities to verify the status of COVID-19 testing results on campus. In this section, I would like to motion to amend the resolution to change this 161 number to the 775 number in ASU's latest statement.
Okay, do we have any objections to the amendment, or a second, or any objections to the amendment?
I second.
A second.
Perfect, seeing no objections. So Daniel, you can check it.
775, cool. Whereas ASU has released a statement which verifies that there have been 775 confirmed cases of COVID-19 within the ASU community across campuses. And then I would like to motion to amend this edit, which just reflects the language that ASU is now releasing on campus versus off campus numbers, but we are still looking for other information.
All right, can we have that motion to amend include changing nothing to noting? Is that,
yes, that does include that edit.
Cool. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Are there any objections to that motion? Sweet. All right, you are good to do both those things.
I'm going to leave this because I don't know if I press this check mark if it'll replace it.
It'll automatically, yeah, the check mark will automatically.
Okay, we're great.
It. Amazing. Look at that.
Awesome. Let's fix this. Cool. Noting that ASU has provided information regarding how many cases there are on campus and off campus and which campuses these cases are occurring at, yet has not provided information about which dorms are affected, further contributing to an environment of confusion and paranoia. Be it resolved that we, the undergraduate student government of Tempe, request Arizona State University to immediately begin regularly releasing anonymized COVID-19 testing data as it relates to on-campus housing, classes, and student populations. This data should include how many of these cases are on campus, and of those cases, which campuses the cases are at, and if applicable, which dorms those cases are in, not just the number of positive cases within the community as the university has currently released. Be it further resolved that in order to see the above actions are successfully taken by the university, a meeting between representatives of the undergraduate student government at Tempe, as well as any appropriate representatives of student organizations as determined by USG and ASU administrators, to begin implementing this program should take place no later than 2 weeks following the passing of this resolution. And that is a resolution to request ASU release COVID-19 testing data.
All right, before we get into any discussion, Senator Lopez, do you have anything to add? Just because of what Senator Decker had brought up, that I didn't give Senator Isais that courtesy when she started, but I want to make sure I do that moving forward. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we open it up for the floor?
Yes, I would say that thankfully, most of the requirements listed in this resolution when it was originally written a few days ago have been met. They are now telling us how many cases are on campus and off campus. They're telling us what the cases at all, thankfully. The main thing that this is really looking for is two things: the regular release of data, meaning that if some point in the future, because currently we've been seeing regular releases of data every 2 days, 3 days, which is good. But in the future, for whatever reason, that release of data begins to lapse, that would be in violation of this. That's what I'm looking for, as well as students I've spoken to want to know the breakdown of COVID cases in the dorms. Something that students are very concerned about is when they choose to live on campus, because they just use policy and coronavirus as one of individual choice. You have a student have to make wise choices regarding your living situation, regarding your classes, etc. Right? If you are choosing to live in a residence hall, it is very different to know that there's 350 or so cases on campus. It's very different to say if 350 of those cases are spread all throughout Tempe equally throughout every dorm, or if they're all in your dorm. Those are two very, very different situations, right? And if you're a student living in each of those situations, right, you need to be able to have the information to make that decision. And so being able to know how many cases are in each dorm is really imperative to students making smart decisions. And I think that information would be very helpful. And that's why I hope for this resolution to pass. Thank you.
All right, so we've got 10 minutes, which puts us at 9:10. We've got Senator Isais. You've got your hand raised, so the floor is yours. And other folks that want to address, just raise your hand as you come up with things you want to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my support for Senator Lopez's bill. I think it will increase the transparency on part of the university towards the student body. The fact that ASU was holding off on publishing a lot of this data until kind of last minute, and also the fact that the regularity of COVID updates come at night when it's just kind of a strange system of releasing things. So I think that this would urge the administration to increase transparency to some degree. And with that, I yield my time.
All right, we've got Senator Ibarra and then Senator Huerta and then Scoville in the speaking order. So Senator Ibarra, if you want, the floor is yours.
Hi, I also wanted to express my support. As some of you know, I'm an REL in Hossie, and at the beginning of this meeting, we had a fire drill, and just to paint a picture, the CAs are not getting any information. They get the information at the same time as most of us actually do, and they're just as confused as we are. And when the fire alarm occurred, everyone was just rushed out, and all the students that were in quarantined in the same halls, in the same rooms as other students, they were not told or advised where to go. And they were asking in the group meetings, asking questions of where to go, and no one was responding because no one really knew. So that's just the confusion. And I did ask Dean Aska in the beginning of this call just what the transparency was and who was actually expected to be in charge of administering these new regulations, and all of the responsibility seems to be placed on the CAs, which is just piling on every day, and they're very understaffed. And I just wanted to express my support and just let you guys all know that residential, like living in the halls, is very scary for the freshmen, for the student staff, and just everyone here, because everyone is trying to pick up the slack and we're all just very confused and scared.
All right, Senator Huerta, if you want to go.
Yeah, I also just wanted to express my support for this resolution and sort of echo off of what was just said. Student staff on campus are out here risking their lives on a daily basis at this point, while not getting accurate data or about how COVID is transmitting among residence halls and even beyond that. And I believe that with this resolution, if passed and followed through, can have waves beyond, can have waves of impacts that would just overall support all of the student body. And I just strongly support the resolution.
All right, Senator Reithel, or Scoville, sorry. Reithel's next.
I would also like to speak in support of this legislation. I think probably, so throughout this pandemic, there's been the narrative you have to make smart choices about like what risk you're willing to take personally. But there's absolutely no way we can expect ASU students, especially students living dorms, to be able to adequately judge the risk of their situation without information about that. I mean, we're a university. I think we're all learning that we're supposed to assess facts before we make decisions. And I think it's critical that the university allows students to actually follow through with their education and have the information they need to make these decisions.
All right, now Senator Reithel, it's your turn.
All right. Well, I have some concern with, I guess, like how we want to do these things. I don't know, kind of like the approach. I feel like this is going by the assumption that we cannot trust the actions of administration when all of this data is, you know, it's not coming out every day at 9 o'clock like AZDHS does, you know, my morning check. But it is still in the hands of people who are capable of understanding what it means and making the appropriate decisions. Like we have great epidemiologists in biodesign, like the best of the best. And like, I feel like the administration is already doing something that is sufficient, you know, if it's 2 or 3 days, in that if we give someone the false dichotomy that if we give this information every single day, it may cause undue concern, because like I said, this data can encompass things beyond just what's in the dorms. I understand there is some desire for specifics to the dorms, but I feel like they would be unable to do that due to specific regulations. I don't know. I just feel like the current framework that's in place, maybe demanding that there's a consistency of, you know, twice a week, they say, this is the numbers, this is the trends, this is the situation. And these are what our experts say. But every single day, like I said, it's going to generate this like false dichotomy or like false trust that as an individual, we're interpreting this right when we should really leave it into the hands of the experts and, you know, hope to get weekly updates or maybe demand for, you know, bi-weekly updates.
Try to respond to that before we move on.
We do have other people in the speaking, or wait, did he ask you specifically? He didn't, did he?
No, I was just saying in general.
Yeah, so just for reference, this is our first meeting, so like it's not a big deal. But for reference, you can normally take precedence in the speaking order if they directly address you or ask you a question, if that makes sense. But we do have other people in line first. So we'll respect that, but you can if they ask you a specific question. I hope that makes sense. First meeting, still getting used to stuff, but great question and very valid. Conveniently, you're next in the speaking order. So I guess it doesn't matter anyways.
Oh, okay. So I guess the concern about trusting administrators, generally speaking, I would say that we can trust administration on a lot of things. And I understand they have their reasons for making decisions. But like, for example, something I sat on a Zoom call about housing, and I believe it was ASU's head of health policy said that to the RAs that they should treat every single person they interact with as if they are infected with COVID-19. That should be, you know, for their personal policy. Now, I am not an administrator, but if I was treating the campus like every single student was infected by COVID-19, I probably wouldn't be putting them in dorms together. So I agree that we do have great epidemiologists, we have great doctors, we have great health policy teams. I don't believe that those people are always the ones making decisions. I think the administrators that make those decisions are informed by those people, but it's not the same team, right? And noting that we have to keep in mind that administrators aren't living in dorms. You know, they aren't students usually, and they aren't in that mindset where they're trying to balance their college career with also the COVID pandemic, right? And so I agree that there's probably some privacy concerns with data release. Like, for example, if like I had to be like, if I was notified, like, you know, in each like dorm, like floor, maybe how many COVID cases there were, there's definitely some privacy concerns there. Because if there's only 5 people on a floor, 10 people on a floor, I could probably find out which one is COVID just using, just guessing. But if we're talking about an entire dorm building here, those concerns evaporate because there are hundreds of people in each dorm building, right? And I know for a fact that just based off what other colleges are doing, that there's no legal regulations or barriers preventing them from telling us how many infected cases are in each dorm. You know, anything on a smaller scale of that, like your roommates or classmates, should be getting picked up by contact tracing. Although I know that you know might not be what's happening in reality right now. And I think that should have addressed all your concerns. Oh, the other thing about maybe worrying students with 2 regular release of data, that's why I didn't specify like a daily release or a weekly release, is because I understand that compiling this data and managing it is kind of complicated, and it doesn't happen on a necessarily a exact week, bi-weekly, daily schedule. It should just be as often as possible, like regular releases, right? There shouldn't be these huge gaps of time between each release of data, which is why I try to leave that language flexible. Because I am trying to work with administration as much as possible.
All right. Well, we've got 1 minute left. So Senator Scoville, if you have any remarks before the discussion period expires, you can go for it.
Yeah, just to quickly comment on like the importance of updating people regularly and the need for doing it at ASU versus in the state of Arizona. If you look at Biodesign's critical COVID-19 trends page, they have the regularly updated information that has cumulative cases, daily tests, daily positive tests. And just frankly, that's not how the information is being presented as. It's like not as clear as it very easily could be. So I don't think that we're asking administration to do anything that they're not capable of, or even anything that they're necessarily unwilling to. This is us communicating, saying like, as students, this is the information that we want that would be useful to us. And I think that's a really powerful thing, just like Dean Aska even asked us to at the start of the meeting.
All right. Well, with that, the time period for speaking has expired. So again, we can do 3 different things here. Motion to vote, motion to table, or a motion to extend the speaking time. Although I will say I am not seeing any hands raised. So do we have any motions that anyone would like to bring forth?
I motion to vote.
All right. Is there a second? All right.
Second.
Are there any objections? Cool. Seeing none. So we're going to move into the vote. Jyoti, if you want to send them the little vote tab, vote form. And then we've only got 1 more resolution, guys. I appreciate you all staying. I know it's a lot, but this is important work we're doing. Okay. I need 14 more responses. 6 more, or sorry, 7 more, 5 more, 4 more, 1 more. All right. Okay. Well then, by a vote of 17 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention, SR3 passes. So now we're going to move on to the last bill of the night. So if the sponsor would like to share her screen, we can get going into that one.
All right, full disclosure, I'm a little nervous, so if my voice starts shaking, please just ignore it. All right. Okay, can you guys see the screen? All right, so this is a resolution on police violence and public safety at ASU, and this resolution was co-signed by both the Black African Coalition and also El Considio. We were going to reach out to more, but we didn't have time. So skipping this as well, Whereas this resolution, okay, so there's an attached explainer document to this. If you looked at it over the weekend, it would have gone over the longer sections. But whereas Arizona State University Police Department is a full service public law enforcement agency established by the Arizona Board of Regents and the president of ASU, and that ASU Police Department provides original jurisdictional law enforcement, security, and safety services on property owned or controlled by the A Board, then it stands to reason that ASU, and by extension the undergraduate student government, has representative authority regarding ASU PD. Noting that there have recently been cases of extreme police violence, both in Arizona and elsewhere in America, which directly affects Arizona State University students. Whereas in the most visible case at the time of writing, the death of George Floyd, the police department in question had implemented implicit bias, mindfulness, de-escalation, and crisis intervention, diversified the department's leadership, created tighter use of force standards, adopted body cameras, imitated a series of police community dialogues, and enhanced early warning systems to identify problem officers. Noting that in the death of George Floyd, there were 4 officers responsible, each with the potential to intervene in Floyd's death, but none chose to do so despite significant time and financial investment spent training officers to avoid tragedies such as the one that took place. Noting further that it appears that there is the potential for such a tragedy to occur at ASU with its very own ASU Police Department, given it is just like any other police department in its own words. Therefore, be it resolved that in order to restore confidence that some students may have lost in public safety at Arizona State University, the undergraduate student government of Tempe, in concert with the Black African Coalition, calls for the university to begin the process of disarming, demilitarizing, and defunding the ASU Police Department in a timely manner. Be it further resolved that we, the undergraduate student government of Tempe, in concert with the Black African Coalition, urge that this process specifically include the following in no specific order of priority: suspend the carry of firearms by ASU Police Department. This includes the reserve carry of any firearms that are not regularly carried by ASU PD, such as any rifles possessed by ASU PD. Require officers to be liable for misconduct settlements. Withdraw ASU PD participation in police militarization programs. Reduce the size of the ASU police force from 87 police officers to 70. Substantially reduce the budget allocated to ASU PD and instead prioritize spending on community health, making education and housing more affordable for students. Specifically, reallocate the salaries of at least 17 eliminated ASU police officers to fund the hourly pay of multicultural center employees who will be students of Arizona State University. In the future, if ASU seeks to increase the size of the ASU PD, only police aides may be hired in place of police officers. Begin semesterly meetings with Arizona State University Police Department and municipality police departments for each campus. These meetings would be semesterly with the Council of Coalition so that these underrepresented groups would be able to address concerns and questions to police staff. This ensures that students from these underrepresented groups feel comfortable with the police department that is overseeing their education. Be it further resolved that in order to see that the above actions are successfully undertaken by the university, a meeting between representatives of the undergraduate student government of Tempe campus, as well as any appropriate representatives of student organizations as determined by USG and ASU administrators to begin implementing these programs, should take place no later than 2 weeks after the passing of this resolution. And that is it for the reading part. But I just want to stress the importance again that this resolution was co-signed by 2 of our coalitions. And even though the other coalitions didn't have the chance to co-sign it, they have been speaking about this. The entire Council of Coalitions have been speaking about this because this is something that's really important for the safety of the students on campus and for their well-being and mental health and everything. So I would urge all of you to vote yes. And if there's any hesitance or if you guys have any questions, I would really love to hear them out and answer them. And hopefully we can have this pass because it is something that's really important and crucial to our university, I think. With that, I yield the rest of my time.
All right, so we've got 10 minutes, which puts us at 9:27. So we will begin. Senator Isais, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to express my support for it. And also highlighting the fact that the BAC has been working on this for quite some time, as Senator Saidu has expressed. I think that we, as senators for USGT, we should view this in the broader context of it. So if you're having doubts about it, if you think it's too radical or whatnot, I urge you to think twice about that. Just because of the whole movement that has happened, the Black Lives Matter movement to defund the police, which has been happening this whole summer. We've seen the news, we've seen reports of, even protesters being killed by, domestic terrorists. So the urgency of this legislation is very pertinent to our time. And, as senators within USG, I think we owe it to marginalized communities here at ASU to stand with them. And that includes the BAC and El Considio. So with that, I yield my time, but I express support for this bill.
All right, we've got Senator Pitts, then Senator Lopez, and then Senator Bacala next in the speaking order. Senator Pitts, you have the floor.
All right. Well, firstly, I wanted to thank all the sponsors and all the authors of this legislation. I think it's very well written and very thorough. I would also like to thank, I don't know if they're still on, but if we can communicate that to the Black African Coalition and El Concilio for their participation and them getting involved, because I think it's important that we have our coalitions involved. But when it comes to this legislation, as I was talking about before, I'm not going to get into the debate over the specific policy within this. I don't think that's productive, and I don't think that's what this body is for. Ultimately, I think the issue here is that with many of these resolutions that we're proposing, we're acting as if we're a mock Congress or a mock legislature. We're not, and I think we should take ourselves seriously within our capabilities and within our powers and our jurisdiction as a body. We do not have power over the ASUPD, but we do have power over is expanding safety escort services, is working on reducing sexual assaults on campus, is reforming the certain Title IX protections and working within our own reflection to do these things, as well as working, like President Palmer was talking about, to expand funding for services for our marginalized communities and for people of color on campus. And so I think the issue here, I'm not going to discuss the specifics, because I think that wades into something that we don't need to discuss, as well as I think what we need to focus on, like I said, is what we can actually do, how we can actually affect change. When we do things like this, they're very, very good at getting headlines. But I want to do more than make headlines this year. I want to make change. And I think the issue here is when we just put something like this out and we're told within 10 minutes or however long we could debate for 12 hours on this and it wouldn't be enough. And we put it out here and we say, all right, let's just vote on it. Let's just get it over with. We're neglecting the voices that are necessary in this discussion, especially from our coalitions, especially from marginalized communities. Because when we don't have time to craft real solutions, we end up with rash actions by bodies that cannot do anything except now generate headlines. So I would ask that my fellow senators consider the actual implications of this bill. Again, I refuse to discuss the specifics of the bill because I think this would be very nice if we had these powers and we could actually debate that, but we do not have these powers. And I think we need to focus on things that are productive rather than redundant. I yield my time.
All right, we've got Senator Lopez up next, and then we have a couple more people in the speaking order.
So, as a signee, I support this bill. Joe, Senator Pitts, I 150% agree with you that there are things in our power that we can do, like expanding safety escort services, right? That are important for the communities at ASU, that are important for our students, are important for our constituents, which is why when you write that legislation you put on, I will happily vote yes on it. But right now we're doing this, right? And there's nothing stopping us from doing other things as well. These are not mutually exclusive acts. And I'm frankly kind of flabbergasted at the idea that, well, I guess that's a little inflammatory. I'll just say that I think that we are supporting our constituents. We are uplifting the voices that are unheard. The reason why there was so much effort to make sure this bill got heard tonight is because just a few days ago, there was a massive protest at ASU held by the Multicultural Solidarity Coalition, originally co-sponsored by the Black African Coalition, right? To talk about these issues, to talk about redirecting funding from ASU PD towards the Multicultural Center as it outlines in this bill. And frankly, as students, right, we don't have that leverage. We don't have that authoritative body. We can only say what our constituents want us to do, right? But in terms of, generating headlines, that's what the university listens to. That's our leverage, is for people in our communities to pay attention to what students want, to pay attention to what the Black African Coalition wants, to what El Considio wants, our coalitions who asked us specifically to bring this legislation to the floor. This legislation was drafted with the Black African Coalition every step of the way. There was never a point in time where this legislation was not, written in part with them and put forward by them. And in fact, the other resolution that was going to go to floor tonight did not, specifically because the Black African Coalition requested that it was not put to the floor, because they wanted us, the undergraduate student government, to focus on this, because there are other people working on multicultural center legislation right now. That's a job for other people. They said, this is what we want you to focus on. This is what we want you to uplift from our voices, right? And so this has been given to us by our constituents. This is what we've been told to do. Frankly, it doesn't really matter if we agree or disagree with the resolution. This is what our constituents think, and this is what they want us to present to the administration. And so in my mind, this is what I am going to support presenting. I yield my time.
All right, we've still got 4 minutes left. So I've got Senator Vicala, Saidu, Isais, Scoville, Caldwell, and Huerta. So we'll start with Vicala. You have the floor.
Hi, I'm going to make mine super quick. I support this 1,000%. I really appreciate the senators who have worked really hard on this and the work they did with the coalitions. It was very thorough. They put a lot of thought into it. I was actually going to motion that we vote by acclamation, I believe that's what it's called, where we all basically vote yes on it, because I think it's something that definitely should be passed. But I definitely see it that if that's not a motion that everyone is okay with, I won't make that motion. I don't know how to read the Zoom setting right now, but I just think everyone should vote yes on it. So if somebody else wants to make that motion, feel free to do that. But that is just my thoughts and feelings on it, super quick. Also, there is an attendee who raised their hand. I don't know if somebody else on the speaker list would want to yield their time to them. That is it. I yield my time.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
I could yield my time to the person.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I think I can ask them to unmute. I think Emma, I believe, is who they were referring to. Emma, can you unmute? Do you see that?
Yes.
Amazing.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We do only have 3 minutes left, so just try to keep it.
Yeah.
We can spend time, but just
All right.
speak freely.
Hi, I'm Emma Galligan. I'm a student at the college. I just want to voice my support for this. I really think that this is important. I think I also want to bring it here to campus. I know that there was actually a student that faced violence by ASU PD. He had a gun pulled on him when he was grabbing his own bike. So I think while George Floyd is like a very important thing that we need to consider, we need to consider the fact that ASU PD has created violence on our own campus. And I know we mentioned about needing to create change. I think that this is the perfect opportunity, and that this is a specific action that we can create. And if it is like something that makes a headline, that's also powerful. So yeah, I just want to voice my support for this, and I want to thank everyone that worked really hard to create this.
All right, thank you for speaking, and thank you, senators, for yielding time to constituents. I think that's meaningful. So we've got 2 minutes left in speaking before we'll need to extend it. I've got 5 more people, so Senator Saidu, if you would like to speak, you have the floor.
Hi guys again. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who's been showing support so far. And I just want to address a few things that Senator Pitts has said, specifically the part about writing this to make headlines. I think that's really weird to say, especially since one of the authors of this resolution is a Black girl. So to say that I'm putting attention into this because I want to get written about or something, I think that's kind of disrespectful. And the other thing too about kind of focusing our powers on what we can do, this is something that we can do. We can advocate for students. We can write about students. We can put forward what the students want. And this is what students want. This was co-signed by 2 different coalitions. And if we had had time, it might have been co-signed by more. And sorry, my heart's beating. I forgot what else I was going to say. But I think it's really important for this to pass. Like if you have any reservations about it at all, I mean, speak to me about it. Like I didn't write this for headlines. I didn't even I mean, I don't know, but I think this is something that's really important. The Black African Coalition thinks it's important. It's important. El Considio thinks it's important. The Council of Coalitions thinks it's important. And whether or not you think the university is going to listen to us because we're just students and we're not actual members of Congress, I think you're wrong about that. I think that they might listen to us. And I mean, yeah, that's all I have to say. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, we have expired speaking time. We do still have 4 more people in the speaking order. Is there a motion to extend the speaking time? Keep in mind, our Senate meeting has only been extended till 9:45, and we only have 4 people in the list. So just keep that in mind when you're determining what amount, if you would like to extend the time.
I move to extend the time by 13 minutes.
13 minutes, perfect. Is there a second or an objection?
Second.
Second.
All right, I'm seeing no objections. So we're going to extend it for 13 minutes. So I've got Scoville, Caldwell, Huerta, and Pitts in the speaking order. So Senator Scoville, you have the floor. Just keep in mind the time stuff.
Thank you. I think that it's really important that we consider that this isn't legislation that's like it's not on a new topic. Like back when I was running in my USG campaign, I had conversations with the Black African Coalition about this exact topic, about students not feeling safe on campus. And at the end of the day, we are here to represent students. Like we are the elected student body. We're elected to represent the student body. And what could be more important than making sure that students feel safe and welcome on their campus? If like, how can we expect students to come to a campus where, let's say, if you don't feel safe walking to and from the library at night or getting your bike when you're by the library at night? I think students feeling safe and secure on campus is one of the most fundamental rights you have as an ASU student, because if you don't have that, you can't have the rest of you can't have a true opportunity to achieve everything else you could if you're like feeling anxious on campus or you have a bad experience on the way to the test. So I think it's really essential that we think like who this legislation is for, what this legislation would do, and that this legislation would put into our official words, our official actions, that we've recognized that this is something that students have wanted for years, and now we're finally addressing it.
All right, Senator Caldwell, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Hostel. So first of all, I wanted to start off by clarifying under the argument of it's not within our jurisdiction or it's not within our power to affect change at the ASU Police Department. While none of our legislation is binding, ASU PD does fall under the jurisdiction of ASU students. You know, that does fall under our realm of legislation that we're allowed to pass. And if we were to argue that, you know, we have no binding power, we would never pass any legislation. And that's a systemic issue in itself, that we don't have that kind of binding power, that kind of seat at the table with administration, but that's a conversation for another time. What we need to focus on is, even if you don't have the personal experience of feeling afraid of police on campus, it's important to recognize that there are students who have different experiences than us on campus, and that those experiences are just as valid. And this bill that came forward is actually quite moderate. It brings forward a reduction in the police force that isn't by half, it's not by 3/4, I think it's by about 10 people. So that's not unreasonable, I don't believe. And if it makes some students on campus feel safe, well, I guess the police force is still going to be there for those students who feel that they need them. I don't really think that this is partisan. I don't think that it's outside of our realm of jurisdiction, and I don't think that it heavily benefits one group necessarily more than another, if that's your concern. And while nothing has happened to ASU students, like while we haven't had a situation like what happened to George Floyd on campus, like someone said earlier, it could have happened and it can happen. And even if nothing ends up happening, that fear still affects Black students' mental health on campus. And that is very important, and just as important as people's physical health. So that's just what I want to emphasize today. And I really do support everyone that's put time into this. It was not a rash decision, and it has been in talks all summer for students, for senators who weren't even paid for working over the summer like they are for being paid right now. So I really commend them, and I really urge you to support them, because they've been putting this legislation out of the goodness of their hearts and their care for ASU students, and I urge you to support it. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, Senator Huerta, you have the floor.
Yeah, I would just like to address the previously made comments that we need to understand what's in the jurisdiction of our power, and we don't really work as a legislative body. And I just want to say that even if the legislation that we pass, even if the resolutions that we pass don't become tangible things that ASU administration does, even if this resolution gets immediately thrown out, as it has been, as other resolutions have been in the past, I don't see any harm in showing our students of color in our marginalized communities that we stand by them 100%, that we understand that there's fear. And I just think that there's no harm in absolutely passing this bill. And it just, even if it is symbolic in nature, even if that's all it ends up coming to be, it still is symbolic, and it shows that we are here to represent these underrepresented students. And that's really all I have to say. I yield my time.
All right, we've got Senator Pitts, and then after Senator Pitts, we have Senator Ibanez. Senator Pitts, you have the floor.
Well, first, I just wanted to thank you all for your guys' comments to the contrary. I appreciate hearing the other perspective on this. But I'd like to begin by saying my doubt is not to the sincerity and to the passion of those writing the legislation. It's not even, my doubt isn't even the intent of writing, of you all writing this legislation. Like I said, I commend the coalitions, I commend the senators for putting in their own time for this. Again, my concern is with the effects of the resolution. And so we say, all right, well, nothing will happen, as I believe the earlier senator said, even if this doesn't result in anything. Well, the only thing it will guaranteed to be resulted in is bad press for us, right? And so we're not even, another issue is we're not even doing anything productive, I don't feel, towards supporting these marginalized communities, if that's our intent, which I genuinely believe is your intent. Now, when it came down to something else, another senator said that, maybe you feel that the reason you don't like this is because this benefits one group more than another. I'm a bit offended by that. I absolutely, my concern is not with putting one group over the other. It's making sure that we have a body that functions for all students. So I do think that was a little out of line and inappropriate. And furthermore, another senator essentially, again, misrepresented my talking points about what I said and said that I implied that your intent and the writer's intent was in a bad spirit. I don't think that, and I think we're all in this body to agree that we're all, trying to work together to do what's best for the students. We can disagree with what is best for the students, but that doesn't mean we have to be disagreeable. Furthermore, I'm just very confused. The comment that students have wanted this for years. And I'm also confused by the rhetoric used by one of the senators saying that if we were to, we had the constituents bring us something, and so it's our duty to pass it then. But in an earlier debate, we said that when it comes to certain healthcare concerns, that we must act in our best prudence. So I think there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance on that front. And furthermore, students wanting this for years, like I was saying earlier, that is not an indication of whether or not this would be the right move, because we do have prudence to a degree in the field of what USG can actually accomplish. And furthermore, we don't have any polling information about what students want on campus. We're completely prescribing that for them, which I think is offensive to our student body. But I do appreciate the impassioned debate. I appreciate both sides of this discussion. And like I said, I think this legislation, one way or the other, isn't going to have some huge effect on anything. And I think that's the problem, because I do think we need change in these areas specifically. So I thank you all for your criticisms, and I take them with pride. So and I yield my time. Thank you.
All right, we've got 4 minutes left and then 3 folks left in the speaking order. So just please keep this in mind when we're speaking. Try not to go over a minute and a half or so. Sorry, 4 people in the speaking order. So Senator Ibanez, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to state my support for this bill. Very similar to what Senator Caldwell said earlier, there are many things that we could be doing that we aren't doing in support of this bill. This bill, like we said earlier, came directly from the BAC. We worked very closely with them as a sponsor with this bill over the summer. And it's a little frustrating to hear some of the concerns that are coming regarding how we don't know what the students and our constituents want when this is a concern that came directly from the BAC. And we had a demonstration that occurred right outside my window
and that my friends participated in. So it seems like there is some sort of concern with ASUPD going on campus, whether it's being ignored or whether we want to ignore it. I don't think that's really an option right now, considering we have now been obligated to bring this up from the BAC. And I think it's a great bill to sponsor. And I'm so glad and thankful that Senator Saidu has met with the BAC and given so much work and time into this. Thank you. I yield my time.
All right, Senator Isais, you have the floor.
Yeah, so just to kind of reiterate what Senator Ibanez said, and also to respond to Senator Pitt's comment that this resolution, if passed, would just be bad press. I think that's something said in bad taste. And further, I mean, it's not about whether you think it's about bad taste, it's about what change this is going to bring for the student body and how this will press the administration to at least try to make changes similar to those in the resolution. So I think that it doesn't matter what is written about this. What matters is the BAC's opinion. What matters is El Considio's opinion. What matters is the students' opinion. I don't care about like the press. I don't care about whatever they say. It's just, this is what the students want. So yeah, with that, I yield my time.
All right, we've got Senator Lopez and then Senator Caldwell. There's 2 minutes left in the speaking, so please limit your time to just 1 minute each. All right.
Yeah, I would just again like to say that you know, bad press is a very strange way to be worried about something like this, and to say that like, well, we're not going to get anything done and this isn't going to result in anything. First of all, we don't know what the results are going to be unless we try. The reason why there's a clause in this bill about setting up meetings, like standing meetings with the university, is because we want to, that is going to be the process through which change happens. Obviously, I think all of us understand that the administration is not going to read the bill, salute us and say, on it, boss, and go make all these changes immediately. This is going to be a process. This is going to take some time. It's probably going to go through some revisions. You know, I don't know what it's going to end up being, but that result never happens unless we make it to that stage. And, you know, that's what I'm focused on. That's what I think everyone here is focused on. I would like to yield to Senator Caldwell.
Senator Caldwell, you've got the floor. You got a minute.
Thank you, Senator Lopez and President Hostel. I just wanted to clarify from earlier that I'm not saying that one, group of people is more important than another. I was just, saying that this is important because the compromise that was created in this bill is really important and still creates change while, meeting both sides. I also wanted to say that in terms of being popular with administration, the only hill that I'm willing to die on is for the safety of students. And I think that that is something that we should all be concerned with. It's not a matter of what exactly administration is going to do. We just have to do what's within our power and what's within the best interest of students, no matter what the administration is going to do. So thank you.
With that, I would like to motion to vote on the resolution.
All right, do we have a second? Okay, I'm seeing no objections. So with that said, Jyoti, if you want to send that link out and you guys can vote on the last bill of the night. Waiting on 10 responses, 8 responses, 5, just 2, and just, all right. By a vote of 13 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 abstention, SR 04 has passed. Okay. With that being said, congratulations on finishing your first floor session. So proud of you. Would normally clap, but that would require y'all to unmute your mics. So just know there would be a room booming with claps for you all. So what we're going to do now is a really quick second roll call, a couple announcements, and then I will let you all go home. Jyoti, if you want to do the second roll call, and then we'll do announcements and then adjournment.
Yes, so first, Senator Decker.
Here.
Senator Huerta.
Here.
Senator Caldwell.
Here.
Senator Sanchez Suarez.
Here.
Senator Tinti.
Here.
Senator Anbar.
Present.
Senator Rito.
Present.
Senator Ibanez.
Here.
Senator Vakala.
Here.
Senator Hauk.
He had to go. Yeah.
Senator Hollingsworth,
Here.
Senator Ibarra,
Here.
Senator Pitts,
Here.
Senator Isais,
Here.
Senator Saidu,
Here.
Senator Scoville,
Here.
Senator Lopez,
Here.
Senator Mansfield,
Here.
Senator Subbaraman.
Here.
All right. Well, the only announcements that I have, and then any senators can make an announcement if you'd like, although I will caution us to keep it short so that y'all can go home, or I guess you're probably already home, but so y'all can go to sleep or do your homework. Only announcements I have are senators, just keep in mind that for caucus next week, we will be doing the College Council Summit. Basically what that is the college councils will come and present their budgets to us. You are all expected to be there for this one in specific. So please make sure to be there and let me know 24 hours in advance if you can't be there. And then the finance committee afterwards will create like evaluate the budgets, create bills, and then propose them for like the upcoming Senate meeting. But this is a big one for us. So just make sure to come to the College Council Summit. And let me know if you guys have any other initiatives you want to work on. I know a couple senators are going to email with questions for us to forward to Dean Aska. And I know some senators are working on some other initiatives. So please make sure to be transparent about when you're writing legislation and when you're working on things in the chat. That would be really great. And you guys have been doing that so far, and I commend your work on that. Thank you to all of the audience members for coming out. If you can't tell, I'm speed talking right now, you know what I mean? But thank you so much for the audience members who came out tonight. We really appreciate it, especially since it was such a long meeting. So many of you guys stayed, which is wonderful. But yes, keep up the great work. I'm very proud of you guys. Senator Lopez, if you have an announcement, and then I want to sing happy birthday to Senator Ibanez. Senator Lopez, you got an announcement?
I have two quick announcements. The first one is that Finance Committee is doing the College Council next week, so please show up. And the second one is that you're all wonderful and I love you. Thank you.
Yes, we need some Senate love right now. And so speaking of Senate love, y'all just came from a really long meeting, but imagine doing that on your birthday. So guess who needs some love right now? Take your mics off. Come on, let's sing happy birthday to Yamala. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy
birthday to
you. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, dear Yamala.
Happy
birthday to you.
So we're not a choir for a reason. But Yamala, happy birthday. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And thank you all of you guys for being so wonderful. This is great. I really appreciated all of the work that you guys did. Now please get the heck out of here, go do your homework, go to sleep, go eat some birthday cake, Yamalet. Stay safe, socially distance, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Bye.